quite a brisk breeze around for the vast majority of us. You certainly will notice that if you're out by the coast or on any of the mountains and hills. Those to the east of the UK, though, do have the greater chance of seeing a little bit more in the way of brightness and some sunshine. That may allow temperatures to climb towards 21 degrees Celsius for Aberdeen there. Again, parts of northeastern England may see the cloud break at times across the East Midlands down towards East Anglia as well. And here it could feel quite humid, and amongst all that cloud, top temperatures of 25, maybe locally 26 degrees Celsius. We hold on to this fairly damp, cloudy picture as we head into the overnight period as well. Again, always those eastern areas likely to see a few more in the way of clear spells, but the showers may intensify a touch across North Wales into northern England come dawn tomorrow morning. With the cloud and the breeze, it's going to be a mild night for all of us, temperatures holding around 13 to 16 degrees Celsius. Do watch out for some heavy downpours across England and Wales first thing tomorrow. They could be thundery in places, though some very sharp downpours possible as we head throughout the morning there. Some further showers continuing to push in on that northwesterly breeze, but with those winds shifting in direction, it should hopefully feel a touch fresher tomorrow. Those temperatures will be down, highs only around 24 degrees Celsius in the south and the east. Whilst further cloud and rain is possible across northwestern areas into next week, generally it will be settling down towards the south and those temperatures will be climbing as well. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock on Saturday, the 5th of July, and this is the weekend on GB News. Huge show coming up. Your main stories this hour. Rachel Reeves warned cabinet ministers that tax rises are likely as she admits the government's watered-down welfare bill has been damaging. So will the Chancellor be forced into breaking Labour's manifesto pledge and raising income tax, national insurance or VAT to fill that infamous black hole? And just ignore Farage. That's Boris Johnson's advice to the Tories as he claims the best strategy to counter the reform surge. Do you think he's right, though? And 6 key ministers of one of Britain's worst grooming gangs are released early as 2 others are no longer even on licence. We'll bring you up to date on that latest development. And crowds mourn the death of Liverpool's Diogo Jota at Anfield and his hometown of Gondomar in Portugal as his funeral took place earlier today. And meanwhile, French police are reportedly using knives to puncture migrant dinghies as Starmer prepares to meet President Macron next week. Yeah, absolutely. They're all mad for it. It finally happened after months of anticipation. Oasis performed for the first time in 16 years last night in Cardiff in front of thousands of delighted fans. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend, and it starts right here and right now. So, hello and welcome to the show, and thank you so much for your company on a busy Saturday. I really appreciate your time at the weekend because I know how busy weekends really are. So much to do, but it is your time off. Hopefully, if not, you're on the radio, you can listen to us, so you can sit and take some time out and join me and have a chat, because that's what we're here for. We're here to talk to you, because this show is nothing without you and your views, and it's really easy to get in touch about everything we're talking about and everything you want to talk about. It's gbnews.com/your-say and join in our conversation. And I promise, read as many out as I possibly can. Right, OK, but, this is going to be a good one. Before we move on, there is a very, very special programme this weekend, well, tomorrow, actually, with a very old friend of mine, Eamon Holmes. Sunday with Eamon is live at 3 o'clock tomorrow, and you don't want to miss it. And I might tell you a few little bits and pieces that I know about Eamon that he might not want you to know throughout the show today. But before Eamon comes up tomorrow, we've got a big show to get out for you, so let's get cracking, shall we? Now, despite this is front page for your papers today, despite promising not to raise taxes on working people during last year's election campaign, Rachel Reeves has reportedly told her cabinet colleagues that taxes will have to rise in the autumn budget to cover the cost of Labour's decision to abandon the reforms to welfare. And in what could prove to be another serious PR blunder, this comes on the same day as Keir Starmer released this video promising to make Britain fairer and put more money in your pockets. Have a look.
But I also know that at times it doesn't feel like Britain is fair enough for those people, the people who are getting on with it. And that's what drives me forward, at home or representing our interests abroad. I'm putting you first, making Britain fair for you again, building more affordable houses, fixing the NHS, securing our borders, giving your kids more opportunities, cleaning up our streets, putting more money in your pocket.
More money into your pockets. Now, I know that he gets distracted as Prime Minister. He's admitted that, but I'm assuming that he will look at the front pages of the newspapers today, which are mostly covered with stories about Reeves fears tax turmoil and Reeves, I might have to put taxes up. And then her boss comes out with, well, I'm going to put more money in your pockets. And it's like, no wonder she's in tears, to be honest with you. I don't blame her at all. Any case, let's now talk to former Mayor of Middlesbrough and political commentator Andy Preston. Andy, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Hi, Dawn.
Andy, we are celebrating, in inverted commas, a year of the Labour government. The anniversary was actually yesterday. And we had Rachel Reeves admitting that she might have to put taxes up. And at the same time, Keir Starmer saying, I'm going to put more money in your pockets. Andy, you couldn't make this government up, could you?
You could not make this up, Dawn. It is staggering. Listen, the team who promised stability, decency, honesty and integrity, it has been one thing after another, whether it's been the MP who punched someone. We had the minister, Louise Haig, was it? It was a fraudster. We've had all the free gear, all the freebies, all kinds of shenanigans. But now actually, Dawn, it's much more serious. This is now the very beginning, or perhaps even just exiting the beginning, going to the medium part of a full-blown financial problem that could become a genuine crisis. Because what we've got, Starmer and Reeves are not in charge. The backbenchers and the unions are in charge, and they are deciding what policies will happen. They're deciding what monies will be spent and what will be cut. And I'll tell you something, backbenchers are cowardly. They want to save their own skin and be popular, so they don't like making cuts. So, Dawn, we are on a road to bankruptcy, a 15-year path to bankruptcy. If we don't make tough decisions now, they're going to be murderous later and cripple the poorest.
But Andy, she promised us there wouldn't be any tax raises for ordinary working people.
She did promise that. And do you know what? I think in her head, I thought they could do it. I think they thought they could do it. I think they thought, we're the good guys, it's going to be easy. We'll just be nice and kind and it'll be easy. Being in power is so tough. And when there's no money, it's almost impossible. So the next question is, if they're not going to put tax up for working people, if they can avoid that somehow, like income tax, what will they do? Well, my money would be on capital gains tax. You know, Labour MPs, most of them don't understand what it is, so that won't cause too many problems internally, but it might harm the economy. But short term, cap gains tax could raise maybe 5 billion. The problem is they've got a black hole now of about 20 billion they've got to fix this autumn. It's really tough. And in case people think I'm being dramatic, Greece's national debt 2 years before they went completely bust was 100% of their GDP. Ours is about the same. And we've got people in charge now who aren't allowed to or daren't make the cuts we need to balance the books. I fear that we are, as some people quip, Greece without the sun, that we're on that slope and things are going to get worse and worse, and it will take a bailout or a full-blown crisis. Liz Truss, that shenanigans could be nothing compared to what's in store over the next year or two.
So, Andy, what I don't understand is why Keir Starmer is putting that message out on social media this morning saying, you know, we are going to put more money in your pocket. I mean, the Conservatives did an estimate. I think the average family is going to be at least £275 off a year. I mean, obviously, the Conservatives, they would say that in any case, but they've done some sums on it. So how can he put that message out today of all days?
I think that he doesn't get it. Do you know what I think? I don't think he's necessarily stupid, but there's a dimension to his character that doesn't see what we all see. And what's interesting, right? We need him to be positive. We need leaders, prime ministers, to be positive and make us feel good about the future. And if he said, you know what, things are really tough and we're going to have to put some taxes up temporarily, but we've got a plan. And in 2 years' time, we're going to start reversing those tax rises. We're going to be much better off and we can start spending money on great things. I think people would potentially go with him. But no one believes him when he says you're going to be better off. He's one of these people you don't believe.
This is the problem, Andy. If it had come initially, right, I can remember that in the Rose Garden, it feels like a lifetime ago now, where he was going to say, it's going to be tough, it's going to be very hard, it's all going to be doom and gloom. Not a great start, but if it had been honest then and come up with, say, I don't know, a policy like, we're going to put 1 penny on the income tax of everybody, most people would have gone, OK, I can probably cope with that. I mean, it's going to be, what, 270 quid for an average income earner? Most people would have done that, and that would have been honest. So if it had been honest then, we'd have maybe not been in this situation now, as you say, financially, the country's in a terrible state. But the fact that he wasn't honest then, and is still not being honest now, is he not talking to ordinary people?
No, and I think you are dead right. Do you know what? If he'd said we're putting income tax up a penny for everyone, and the highest earners it's 2p, and we're putting VAT up by 2p, so your restaurant bill is going to be 2% higher, and capital gains tax is going up to, whatever, 27%. That would have balanced the books, and I think people would have thought, do you know what, that's a bit of pain, but we'll get through it. And then he could sell us the optimism, the vision of the future, but there's been no honesty and no vision of the future. That's the problem, is that it's really clear they were elected without a plan. There's no strategy, and what's worse, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves aren't even in charge anymore.
I Andy, obviously there are very strong opinions there, and we are going to be talking about this subject throughout the programme because it affects everybody out there, right? Especially if you're a pensioner, because there is some story now that they may be looking at our pension pots, which is, it's like, what have you got against the elderly? I mean, I'm speaking as one at the moment. But there's the other story in the Telegraph today. Starmer poised to block wealth taxes, which for a Labour government, you would have thought, actually, why don't start taxing the wealthy a bit more? That you're Labour, this is what you're meant to be doing. But that doesn't seem to be an option now either.
Well, it's appealing, isn't it? So the idea of the wealth tax is you target people who have got, say, assets or cash of 10 million or more, and you get them to pay 2% a year. And in theory, that produces you 20, 30, 40 billion. It sounds brilliant. But what happens, guess what happens is they find, the ones who stay find ways to avoid it, nearly all of them, and others actually, clear off abroad to Dubai or Switzerland or Italy, places that are very friendly to wealthy people. And that's what we've got going on, Dawn. That's the problem. We have 16,000 millionaires leaving who pay an average of £300,000 a year tax. Now, somebody say, oh, I don't care, let the rich leave. That's a problem for everyone. They take with them 5 billion in tax. So that's a 5 billion black hole that we've then got to find amongst those of us who stay. So we desperately need the wealthy to stay because, like it or not, it's the wealthiest who bankroll the hospitals, the roads, defence and everything else. They pay hugely disproportionate tax sums. I'm not saying that we need to worship them or adore them, but we need to find a way to keep the wealthy here. And a wealth tax would categorically chase them away.
Lordy, lordy, what a mess. Andy Preston, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate that. It's former Mayor of Middlesbrough and political commentator Andy Preston for you there. Obviously, very strong words. And one thing Andy did say about Louise Hay, she's not here to defend herself, but she would deny the allegation that she is a fraudster. Very strong words from Andy, but that's what we're all about, isn't it? So I want to hear what you're thinking about this. Are you feeling vulnerable this morning? I mean, obviously Rachel Reeves has made a lot of people cry this year with pensioners, farmers, people in running small businesses, people in private schools, etc, etc, etc. However, I'm starting to understand why she is in tears. Because this is one unholy mess. I wouldn't want her job now. But hey, she did want that job, so you make your bed, you lie in it, as my mum would say. Now, don't forget, you can stay with us all day, not just on TV, but on radio and on your smart speaker. And this is the clever bit. To listen to us on your smart speaker, simply say, play GB News on TuneIn. And it works. Clever, isn't it? OK, but we do have some good news for you this show as well, because we are giving money away. Money that the government can't get. It is time for the Great British Giveaway, and it's our biggest ever cash prize. You know this by now. It's a totally tax-free £54,321. And it really could all be yours. Here's how you do it.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. Now, as you heard from Charlie and Miriam earlier, GB News can exclusively reveal that 6 key members of one of Britain's worst grooming gangs have been released early, and 2 are no longer even on licence. The gang terrorised young girls in Oxford between 1998 and 2005 by sexually abusing them. We can't give you the details, but these are some of the most horrific abuse levels you can think of, OK? Including rape. It makes it sound like it's just rape, but it's horrible what these men did. And this happened after they plied them with drugs and alcohol. They subjected the vulnerable girls to, as I said, just appalling levels of degrading acts. Sex doesn't even come close to it. And letting them be abused by other men as well. The victims were truly at their mercy. Charlie can't be with us, unfortunately, at the moment, but to discuss this further, I'm now joined by retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Mike, thank you very much for joining me. I believe you've got some personal experience of these grooming gangs, haven't you?
I was in charge of the Lambeth Sex Offender Unit, and this was really before these grooming gangs came to public knowledge. But what it tells me, Don, is that even when these people are released, even though they're not on licence, they're on the sex offender register. But the problem is the police are utterly overwhelmed. You know, when people say, oh, somebody's on the sex offender register, I think the public expect that an officer's knocking on their door every week. That's simply not happening. So these men are just being released back into the wild, really.
This is the problem. They are released back into the world. They are free to live their lives. Meanwhile, their victims are suffering for the rest of their lives. Surely this sentencing involved in these gangs is completely and utterly wrong.
It is utterly wrong, as you said, they've destroyed lives. And it wasn't just in Oxford. These people were travelling as part of a network. I mean, I noticed in your report that they travelled as far as Bolton, which is my hometown, and we know that those northern towns like Bolton, Blackburn, Rochdale, Oldham have all had an impact from these dreadful rape gangs. And the other unsaid thing here is really most sex offenders, if I molested children and came back to where I live, I'd be utterly ostracised. And in the vast majority of communities, these people would be self-policed by the community. But I'm afraid that these people will be released into a community that just simply doesn't care. They will go back and they'll just be treated as normal citizens, and that is simply unacceptable. The religious and community leaders should speak out about this and say this behaviour is wicked and evil.
Why don't they, Mike?
It's the elephant in the room. It's a religious matter, isn't it? These girls were seen as trash. They were not of that faith. They were not Muslims, and therefore they were fit to be abused. That's what we've seen throughout these grooming gangs, and it's a real problem. The communities need to close down because, as I say, in most communities, a returning sex offender simply would not be accepted.
No, you're quite right. I mean, there's obviously a lot of scandal over Oasis and them using a Gary Glitter song, and people are getting really, really angry about that. But still, people are just letting these people walk the streets. It shouldn't be happening.
What we hear all the time from the government, we hear rightly that we should be targeting violence against women and girls. You know, I've got 3 daughters. I don't want these men on the street. They're targeting people. They go out of their way, as you said, to target vulnerable girls with alcohol and cigarettes and whatever else. And this will happen again. You don't stop being a child molester. If it's in your blood to be a child molester, you will carry on doing it. These men are not going to be released and live some good life. Every day they're on the street, they are putting girls at risk, and that is just not on.
Mike, what should we do with them?
In my view, with child molesters, we should simply lock them up and throw away the key. It's as simple as that. When you release a burglar or a robber or a thief, you take a chance that they might not do it again. If they do it again, it's a bad thing, and burglary is sad, and theft and whatever else. But when somebody molests children, they ruin lives. That life is impacted on forever. And so in my view, if you do that to children, the system should not take risks on you. You are not to be gambled on. You can stay in that prison and stay there until you rot, because you bring nothing good to society. All you bring is risk and misery.
Mike, very, very strong words there indeed. But you have been at the sharp end. You've experienced what these girls go through. You've worked with them. Thank you very much for talking to us more than that. It's retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. I remember some of these girls, 10 years old. Let us know what you think. OK, now a Ministry of Justice spokesman has said in this particular case, including the Oxford men, our thoughts remain with all the victims in this despicable case. Offenders released on licence are subject to strict conditions and will be sent back to prison if they break the rules. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. Just ignore Farage. That's Boris Johnson's advice to the Tories as he claims that the best strategy to counter the reform surge. Do you think he's right, though? But after the break, crowds mourn the death of Liverpool's Diogo Jota at Anfield and in his hometown of Gondomar in Portugal, as his funeral took place earlier today. All of that and much more coming up. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
An amber heat alert remains in place across all of England until Monday morning.
Well, joining us now, GB News reporter Jack Carson. Jack Carson, where are you? Tell us. Oh, he's rowing. Jack Carson, what a go on?
Good morning. Good morning. Well, we're in the beautiful Stratford-upon-Avon, so we were on the big wheel earlier on, and one of the other beautiful things you can do is also row on the river as well. This is the Avon Boating Club. This has been going since the 1800s, 1898 it started. This boat over here on the right, that was bought brand new all the way back in the day, so it's historic here, and a lot of these boats are from the likes of the 1930s as well, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's this beautiful sunny weather. Here we are on the river. I've never rowed in my life before, but I think I've got the hang of it okay. But let's have a listen to a few of the people we've spoken to this morning about how they're enjoying the weather today.
Yesterday I did start to think, right, I'm getting a bit sweaty and hot now, so yeah, but it's nice, isn't it? As long as there's a breeze, it's not too bad.
Can't beat it. Literally the best thing ever. Yay!
They make the most of it because the winter was terrible this year with all the rain, so this is payback.
It makes us feel better, doesn't it? Bit of sun on our bones. It really does.
Enjoying the weather, Will? Nice? Sunny? Chatty? Well, there you go. That's what some people have been saying to us this morning about how they're enjoying the weather. I think I've got myself into a bit of a pickle. Hopefully we're not going to capsize. I think other people might be a bit more experienced in the rowing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you for your company this Saturday lunchtime. Now, the most tragic story of the week, incredibly sad, the funeral of the Liverpool footballer Diogo Jota took place this morning. You can see live pictures here on your screen. Jota's teammates... Sorry, that's not live. That was earlier this morning. Sorry, my mistake. Jota's teammates and the club's manager, Arne Slot, were in Portugal for the funeral. Jota and his brother, Andre Silva, were killed in a car crash early on Thursday morning. Jota was just 28 years old. His brother was just 26. I'm joined now by the football journalist, Harry Harris.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Harry. Thank you for joining me. Good to see you, my lovely. I'm just so sorry that it's just such an incredibly sad story. There's very little you can say apart from it's just such an utter tragedy. The funeral pictures we saw earlier today, what does it mean to you, this loss to football and to the football family?
Well, as you say, Dawn, a huge tragedy and a very sombre occasion in Portugal, in his hometown. But I think this is going to be felt so acutely on Merseyside, you know. I go way back, as you know, Dawn, on the Daily Mirror to Hillsborough, where I was actually at Hillsborough. And of course, there was a tragedy at Highsall as well. And this will impact so much on Merseyside. It will be really heartfelt felt by the Liverpool fans, for sure. He was such a popular player, you know. I wouldn't say the world's greatest, but he was an outstanding footballer and contributed so much to Liverpool's success, particularly winning the championship. And looking forward to a new season with his country as well as his club. You know, he had at least 2 World Cups ahead of him. He was at the peak of his powers, as you can see from his teammates who went over for this. It's been heartfelt in the dressing room, but it will be so much felt by the supporters.
Absolutely. And, you know, it is a cliche, but cliches are cliches because they are true. And it's amazing seeing players from clubs around the world, but in particular, obviously the great rivalry in Liverpool with Everton stars joining in at the Anfield tributes. You know, football fans from around the world and other players actually paying tribute to Jota and just remarking on what a loss this is to the game.
Well, Dawn, I do have one sobering thought for football in general. You know, this isn't a one-off tragedy. You know. We are seeing so many young men, impressionable young men, receiving at the highest level, the elite level of the game, phenomenal wages, making them multimillionaires, even billionaires in some cases. And they do they are attracted to these very fast, expensive, flashy cars. And you know, in my day, this was frowned upon. You know, 1 or 2 older players would turn up in bangers at the training ground just to make a point. You know, sometimes it isn't a great idea to, you know, to have these fast cars. They are quite dangerous. And even since this tragedy, there's been another young player who's died in a car crash. I think this is something the Premier League and the PFA and the game in general should look at. And really, there should be a more sensible solution to what's going on at the moment.
Harry, that's a really interesting point because we know that clubs do sort of like look after their players incredibly well. They will send people around to change light bulbs for them, for example, but they will let them get into these incredibly dangerous cars. I mean, you know, I'm a West Ham fan, as you know, and we had Mikel Antonio in 2 horrific car crashes in very fast sports cars. So there is this weird contradiction here is they will wrap players up in cotton wool in some areas, but then sort of almost cast them adrift to drive, you know, dangerous cars like this.
Well, it's how much control you can have outside of their, you know, their professional lives, their private lives. They're allowed to do what they want. But, you know, contracts that these players sign, as you rightly say, Dawn, you know, do prohibit them from doing various things that are dangerous, like skiing and various, you know, motorsports. But to drive those kind of fast cars, particularly at, you know, at midnight and in dangerous conditions, seems to me a contradiction in terms and the kind of contracts that the clubs want control over their players' safety.
Yeah, and you can see on your screen live pictures from Anfield as we speak, and the pile of flowers growing there, you know, as people bring more flowers and youngsters there. And you know, Harry, the one thing about football, and I've been going since God was literally a boy, it is really a family sport. I mean, I don't think I appreciate just how much, you know, we all have our football rivalries, like we mentioned Liverpool and Everton and West Ham and Spurs, for example. But when things like this happen, football is a family and we do look after our own.
You're quite right. I mean, I've been reading a lot of the comments on the comment boards of the stories that appeared, and even the great rivals, the fans from Manchester United or Arsenal or other rival teams, you know, they have been very quick to be supportive. And if they're not, other fans for other clubs have been very quick to pick them up on that. You know, there is a great family atmosphere. It is a working men's sport, really, basically. And this is why this is such a big disconnect between what's going on with footballers that generate so much wealth and exhibit that wealth in public. And you mentioned your own West Ham player. I mean, he was lucky to survive that.
He was, really.
He walked away from that. That was horrendous. And you know, he put his career in jeopardy, broke his leg, and very painful rehabilitation, as we saw. So, you know, but nothing came of that as a consequence of that. But let's hope that this isn't just another tragedy in vain.
Exactly. Let's hope we never have to talk about this again, happening to another player. Thank you very much, Harry. That's a football journalist and legend indeed, Harry Harris. Thank you very much for joining me, Harry. OK, now I'm going to be joined by Portuguese football writer and historian Miguel Pereira. Miguel, thank you very much for joining me this morning. We have witnessed pictures of the funeral this morning in the boys' hometown. What does it mean in Portugal?
Well, the nation is in mourning, and perhaps they haven't yet processed totally the ground of shock that they will feel over the upcoming weeks. Because, as you have mentioned before, he was a well-beloved, not only football player, but also as a man, deeply rooted within his community, a working-class neighborhood nearby Porto, a place where he tended to go back every time he could to help out kids in schools, in institutions, in projects. So people are really suffering the loss of someone that was dear more than just for being a great footballer that he was.
That's the interesting thing, Miguel. We've just been talking to Harry Harris there about footballers. They have this, you know, enormous wealth. Obviously, they get the fast cars, they get the nice houses. But, you know, the thing is with Diogo and his brother, they actually did care about where they came from. They would go back and they would help out in their local communities. And, you know, as many footballers are, it was a fairly poor working class background.
Yes, I think that's one of the things that's made this event so tragic, is that I believe football supporters, not only Liverpool football supporters, but football supporters all around, look at Diogo and saw him as one of us, in the sense that he was not like modern footballers who acted like movie stars back in the day. He was very much aware of his role. He used the esports world to connect with supporters, something that he really loved. He used his influence to help people everywhere he could. So I remember it was Andrew Robertson, if I'm not mistaken, that told that he was probably the most British player never to be born in the UK because of his working class mindset. And those are the kind of footballers and sportsmen that we are losing to the new generations. And probably that is one of the reasons that Diogo and his brother as well were so beloved by everyone who knew him, both in and outside the game.
I mean, very, very moving pictures from the funeral today of, I think, his wife walking alongside Diego's coffin there. I mean, a couple that were married just 11 days ago, I believe, and with 3 small children. I mean, your heart breaks for them, and indeed the parents, because they have lost 2 sons.
Yeah, and they met when they were 14, Ruth and Diogo, so they have known together all their lives. And they had the only stable relationship was theirs. The kids also very young. They were living the happiest moments of their lives, with Diogo winning the Premier League with Liverpool, winning the League of Nations with Portugal, just getting married. So he was expecting to have the best summer of his life. And also, of course, as you mentioned, the parents who lost 2 kids, 2 very young kids. His younger brother was playing on Portugal's second tier, but was expecting to get first division football in the upcoming season. So he had all his life ahead. And that also impacts and shocks us eventually, because we're not just talking about great sportsmen, we're also talking about families, we're also talking about the individual lives here.
Of course, and that's what we do forget, isn't it, Miguel? When we're talking about these players, we talk about their wealth, we talk about their cars, we talk about their houses, but they are ordinary people as well, and this is just a horrific tragedy. Miguel, thank you very much for talking to me this morning. That's Portugal's football writer and historian Miguel Pereira. Thank you very much, Miguel. OK, it's a very sad story, but if you want to talk to us, we are here for you, by the way, gbnews.com/your say about that story or anything else, because a lot of people in football are feeling sad about that, and a lot of people are going, well, it's just a footballer, but look, we're here to talk to you, whatever you want to say. gbnews.com/your say. And that's what we're here for. Please do get in touch. I will read as many as I possibly can coming up. And there's loads more coming up on today's show, so you don't want to move a muscle.
What we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
OK, across the pond, President Trump announces big, beautiful bill as Americans celebrate Independence Day. And the president has revealed a secret about his wife. Stay tuned to find out exactly what that is. But after the break, French police are reportedly using knives to punch a migrant dinghies as Starmer prepares to meet President Macron next week. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon. I wish it to.
Hello there, this is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Quite dull and damp for many of us during this first half of the weekend, all courtesy of an area of low pressure that is generally in control across the UK. It's steadily moving eastwards, but we've got this trailing weather front providing a lot of clouds, some outbreaks of rain across southern districts. Some of those might be heavy for Cornwall, particularly the Channel Islands, into this afternoon. We do also have a rain warning still in force across western Scotland today. We've seen quite a lot of rain build up over recent days or so, and those will continue throughout today as well. Quite a brisk breeze around for the vast majority of us. You certainly will notice that if you're out by the coast or on any of the mountains and hills. Those to the east of the UK, though, do have the greater chance of seeing a little bit more in the way of brightness and some sunshine. That may allow temperatures to climb towards 21 degrees Celsius for Aberdeen there. Again, parts of northeastern England may see the cloud break at times across the East Midlands down towards East Anglia as well. And here it could feel quite humid and amongst all that cloud, top temperatures of 25, maybe locally 26 degrees Celsius. We hold on to this fairly damp, cloudy picture as we head into the overnight period as well. Again, always those eastern areas likely to see a few more in the way of clear spells, but the showers may intensify a touch across North Wales into northern England come dawn tomorrow morning. With the cloud and the breeze, it's going to be a mild night for all of us. Temperatures holding around 13 to 16 degrees Celsius. Do watch out for some heavy downpours across England and Wales first thing tomorrow. They could be thundery in places, though some very sharp downpours possible as we head throughout the morning there. Some further showers continuing to push in on that northwesterly breeze, but with those winds shifting in direction, it should hopefully feel a touch fresher tomorrow. Those temperatures will be down, highs only around 24 degrees Celsius in the south and the east. Whilst further cloud and rain is possible across northwestern areas into next week, generally it will be settling down towards the south and those temperatures will be climbing as well. Bye-bye.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you for your company this afternoon. Please do keep getting in touch with me, gbnews.com/your-say, because I'm lonely in the studio. I want your company. I want you to have a chat with me. OK, now, the story we're covering now, it's a suggestion that lots of us came up with years ago when this problem started. The British government hopes could have a major impact on the battle to stop the small boat crossings. French police have been filming slashing the rubber dinghies with knives as they're preparing to cross the channel. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has welcomed the action, but has called on the French to go even further to stop the crossings. Deep breath, Dawn. OK, let's get the thoughts now of former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us. Kevin, right, between you and me, when this started, the small boat crossings, right, we jokingly said on another radio station, just stick a knife in the boats, that'll stop them, won't it? We were laughed at. And now, here we are. What do you make of this latest development?
Well, it's interesting that they did this, and just by coincidence, there happened to be a camera crew there when they did this. Wasn't that amazing? You know, it must have been a complete coincidence that this happened. But for a long time, there's been demands that the French change their tactics on the beaches. So previously, we've seen French police officers try and stop people walking down to the shore with a boat. But they haven't gone and got their feet wet. And as people see from this footage, you know, we're not talking about people wading out up to a particularly high thing. You know, the water isn't even up to their waist when they're doing this. And because of that tactic, we've seen small boat migrants and traffickers, what they do is they get a boat into the water and then it sort of goes along like a sort of bus service in the water, picking people up at different locations to exploit the fact that the French police wouldn't go into the water. Now, they're thankfully starting to do that. And yes, these boats are pretty flimsy, as demonstrated. You can just literally pop them. And when they're in shallow waters, of course, people can literally stand up and walk back to the beach. Where we need now the French to go slightly further is actually doing this from boat and doing this in shallow waters as well, alongside other things we could also do around changing the law, removing people, because ultimately all these people are in safe and democratic France. If they're fleeing tyranny, then they're already somewhere they can claim asylum.
And indeed, many of them, as we constantly point out, have crossed many other safe European countries to get to the channel there. But why haven't the French done this before? What has changed that suddenly they've started to do this?
I think what's changing is the debate in France and some of what we're seeing actually going on, actually amongst migrant groups themselves. We're seeing increased levels of violence and criminality within the Pas de Calais, basically gangs and migrants fighting with each other about who can set boats off and who can get in them. And generally a feeling in France that, you know, basically allowing this trade to carry on doesn't just negatively affect us here in the UK, but it means French citizens living in the Pas de Calais have to live in the middle of this lawlessness, and many are getting absolutely fed up with it and are starting to see that in voting patterns in French elections, as well as what we often debate here in the UK as well. So it doesn't surprise me that Macron might be starting to actually get a bit more practical with some of this. And we've always been clear, I was always clear that if the French needed support from our resources on their beaches, then of course we would look to help them to deal with it, be in our interest to stop it that side of the channel rather than ours to deal with the problem overall. But I think some of this will be domestic political pressure in France for a tougher line, given the impacts for residents of the Pas de Calais.
Kevin, as you said, it's in our interest that the boats don't leave the French coast. However, is it in the French interest? Now, the meeting, we know Macron's coming over here, I think, on Tuesday, and we'll obviously be having meetings with Starmer. What do you think? If it was you, what would you be saying to Macron?
I think what I'd be saying to Macron is that it's definitely in the interests of France to put an end to a practice that is bringing criminal gangs to the shores of France, is funding other criminality, you know, gangs that get involved in small boat trafficking, you know, also doing other things, firearms, robbery, and various other criminality around them. So it's in France's interest. And what I would be saying is, look, we do want to support France in dealing with this problem because it helps us. And part of that would be looking at things like third country arrangements, because if people are declining the chance to claim asylum in France, Well, let's remove them from France, either home, because apparently they have no fears, so they don't need to claim asylum there, or two, to a third country where it's countries, for example, like Syria or Afghanistan, where realistically it's going to be very hard to work with the authorities on the ground there to return via Rwanda. And that's actually something we could work with them and do in terms around removals and our resources we use to do that. Because ultimately, if that starts happening, it would definitively reduce the numbers coming across. But it's got to be seen as a shared problem. If Macron isn't prepared to take tough and more difficult decisions, then this problem is going to carry on in the north of France in the same way as if the UK government just keeps repeating smash the gangs, it's going to carry on as a problem for us.
We have heard Yvette Cooper use that phrase this week indeed, haven't we? Kevin, thank you very much. Always a voice of reason there, former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster. Stick the knives into the boat, they sink. It's made sense to me. Any case, if you are in search of some holiday sun, you don't have to go in the dinghy, by the way, you can get on a plane. Here is a forecast for some of those top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across southern and eastern parts of Europe, the heat wave continues, this at times triggering some thunderstorms. But across much of southern Europe, it should remain mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. But as we head our way towards northwest Spain, southern parts of France and across Switzerland, it's likely that we'll see some intense thunderstorms, some hail and also some frequent lightning. But moving away eastwards across the Mediterranean, the settled conditions will continue. So plenty of sunshine into next week, but still those intense temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Lots more coming up on today's really squishily packed show. As Starmer prepares to meet Macron, we've just been talking about that, haven't we? Next week, a report suggests the French president will pressure the PM to recognise Palestine as a state. What do you make of that one? A very divisive topic. But after the break, we'll be getting your latest sports update with Aidan McGee. Huge sporting weekend. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Louise. Thank you for your company. Now, England women will begin defence of their European Championship this evening when they take on France. Wales are also in action today. They face the Netherlands. Our reporter Jack Carson has been looking at how England will get on. It's deeply scientific football analogy, and here it is, kind of thing.
Putting the final touches to their preparation for Euro 2025. Today, the Lionesses begin their journey to try and retain the title. Before heading out to Switzerland, they've had support from His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. But now it all comes down to what happens on the pitch. Or does it? Because at All Things Wild in Evesham, Worcestershire, Rousseau the psychic goat has been busy predicting England's group games. The Lionesses will have to face France, the Netherlands and Wales as they look to qualify for the knockouts. But thanks to this 8-year-old pygmy goat's magic powers, we've got the inside scoop on exactly what's going to happen. With equal amounts of food in each bowl and a packed out crowd watching on, let's see what Rousseau predicted. Rousseau with a confident stride here, heading towards the bowls, the beard in full swing. She's looking left, she's looking right, and it's the French who'll take the victory. Rousseau in no doubt there. Next up for the Lionesses, it'll be England versus the Dutch. Which way will this psychic goat lean? It's a confident run straight down the path, a little tease from her there, but straight into the England bowl, and Serena Weigmann will be delighted if England can get 3 points there. And finally, the derby. England versus Wales. The nation watches this magical goat in anticipation. It's another confident run, and she's heading for the England bowl. Will it be victory? Oh no! Rousseau gives it to Wales. We'll have to get VAR to take a look at that. Did she eat any of the food? It doesn't look like it. And this goat says Wales will be the winner. Afterwards, animal manager at All Things Wild, Matt Parker, gave us his thoughts on that performance.
Well, we knew Rousseau was going to come good for us. Yeah, straight to the bowl. She didn't didn't second guess herself. She had a good time with it.
What do you think about the chances of her predictions coming true?
I don't know. We're going to find out, aren't we?
But will Rousseau reveal the secret to her predictive powers?
Rousseau, what's your secret? How do you do it?
This goat isn't giving anything away, and as the nation watches on, the Lionesses look to make history. Jack Carson, GB News.
See, deep technical football analysis there. Rousseau, for those interested, is an 8-year-old pygmy goat, by the way. Aidan McGee now is joining me to talk all things serious sport, but you've done this sort of thing before, haven't you?
Yeah, I did lions. I did lions in a previous job. I did bears as well. I think we've got a picture of me looking very scared in front of a pen full of bears. There I am. Look how furious. Look how terrified I am.
I hate to point it out, Aidan, but they look a bit like Paddington, right? Big grizzly type.
I'll tell you what was funny, though. I waited so long for them to come out of their little pen that I had to gem up on my bear knowledge. And it happened with the same with lions as well. I mean, we cheated. We put some meat underneath a box, and eventually they went for England instead of Panama, which is good because they look silly voting for Panama.
You don't cheat, by the way. That is all real. OK, there really are psychic bears and goats, all right?
Yeah, OK.
I don't know. What do I have to work with these days?
I know.
But England are... Come on, girls.
Yeah, look, they're going into a tournament for the first time as the holders. They won in extra time against Germany when Chloe Kelly scored that late goal to seal a 2-1 win. Now, look, there have been problems. In fact, they've been beset with problems going into the tournament. Millie Bright and Mary Earps announced their retirement from international football effectively. I mean, Millie Bright less so. She wanted to concentrate on her mental and physical well-being, so there's no saying that she won't be back. However, those blows were dealt really close to the tournament. There was no say. There was no kind of suggestion of it. I mean, Mary Earps had lost her place in the starting lineup. That wouldn't have helped, of course. But the travel to Switzerland with Serena Weigmann in charge. She's looking to win it for a third time in a row. I mean, she won it with Netherlands.
I mean, she
without question. She won it with Holland in 2017. Yeah. But I did say when I sat on this desk saying, is it going to mark a staging post for women's football? Well, the attendances in the Premier League are actually down. So, and the participation in the schools is not as where we want it to be. But I don't think the sport has capitalised on it as well as they should. Now, it's whether England can go there and repeat that kind of performance. But even that might not be enough. We saw from the Euros to the World Cup last time that Spain had improved markedly.
Yeah.
As the more countries compete, the higher the standard gets. It happened in the men's game 50-odd years ago. And so I think England are up against more competition this time, but who's to say they can't do it? They've still got some very good players.
Fingers crossed, I'm supporting them behind them. Just quickly, Wimbledon, evidently that's happening.
Yes, that's right. Well, look, Novak Djokovic is in action today. Cam Norrie is in action tomorrow. And Rema Raducanu out last night, excuse me, of course, 2 sets. But that wasn't the story. She really played well. And this is what happens, though, Dawn, when you're inconsistent all year round, you fall down the rankings and you don't get favourable draws early on in the tournament, and that's why she's out in the first week. And hopefully now she can regroup and go for the US.
And Tour de France as well. But we haven't got time to talk about that because everyone hates cycling. I don't, I love it. But before we go, here's the weather. We'll see you very soon.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. That summer feeling is lacking somewhat this weekend with quite a brisk breeze, rain and showers around for many of us. It's all because low pressure is in charge at the moment. You'll notice a lot of isobars on the chart here indicating where that breeze is coming in from the west, and a few frontal systems here continuing to bring outbreaks of rain as we head into this evening. To start off with, those are mostly on the light side, but we could see them intensifying, particularly across northern Wales into northern England as we head towards the second half of the night. With the cloud, the rain and the breeze, it is going to be a mild night, quite muggy in places as well. Temperatures only dropping back to 13 or 17 degrees Celsius. That does lead us into a pretty damp and dreary start to Sunday then. A lot of cloud right across the board for Scotland, again with those further outbreaks of rain. Generally on the lighter side here, quite drizzly in nature. A lot of extensive cloud cover for Northern Ireland as well. It could be quite misty and murky around some coastal districts and hill fog over the mountains as well. For England and Wales, though, worth watching out for those heavier downpours first thing on Sunday. They will tend to push their way southeastwards as we head throughout the day, and there is the potential that they could be thundery in nature with some hail in the mixture as well. So they could come on quite short notice. Some further showers drifting in for Northern Ireland and Scotland into the afternoon as well. Coming in on that brisk northwesterly wind. That will be starting to introduce some slightly fresher conditions. That does, though, mean that temperatures will be a notch down tomorrow, highs around 24 degrees Celsius. Those showers just continuing to drift their way off as we head into Sunday evening, and things generally starting to dry off a bit, and that is because high pressure is trying to build its way in for next week. So the showers will generally become fewer and further between, more in the way of sunshine breaking through as well, and those temperatures are set to climb. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
French authorities first seized the Lady T, and that's an Eastbourne-based fishing vessel. And next, They fined its skipper, Philip Edwards, €30,000 to release his boat. Now, the Lady T, operating legally under UK jurisdiction, was intercepted by a French patrol ship near the Somme Bay. Now, the incident has sparked massive outrage among British fishermen and is renewing calls for the government to stand firm against French overreach in national waters. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm now joining with Charlotte Edwards, who's the husband. Philip is the skipper of the Lady T and is out fishing right now. Charlotte, welcome to the show. I've got to say, here at GB News, we are hugely supportive and appreciative of British fishermen and fisherwomen. Do a fantastic job. So if you're nervous about the interview, please don't be. I want to ask you how on earth this happened. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, for example, that the Lady T didn't have the correct paperwork, it was fishing illegally, and the French decided to pounce. What's the reality?
The paperwork just slipped through. It was an admin error. The other two boats had the permits, and unfortunately, his didn't at the time. He wasn't in as far in as they said he was. He was about 800 metres in their water. He wasn't near the 12-mile.
He was intercepted by the Pluvier. That's a French Navy ship. No, by the way, the sort of French Navy ships that just seem to give an escort to illegal dinghies coming into British waters, suddenly pouncing into action. The only boat they've managed to stop seems to be the Lady T.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Saturday, the 5th of July. God, I had to double check. How has it got halfway through the year like this? This is the weekend on GB News. Now, your stories this hour. Rachel Reeves warns cabinet ministers that tax rises are likely as she admits the government's watered-down welfare bill had been damaging. So will the Chancellor be forced into breaking Labour's manifesto pledge and raise income tax, national insurance or VAT to fill that yet legendary black hole? And just ignore Farage. That's Boris Johnson's advice to the Tories as he claims that the best strategy to counter the reform surge. Do you think it's got a point, though? And 6 key members of one of Britain's worst grooming gangs are released early as 2 others are no longer even on licence. We'll bring you up to date on that, frankly, horrific story. And Starmer prepares to meet Macron next week. Reports suggest that the French president will pressure the PM to recognise Palestine as a state.
What we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
Meanwhile, across the pond, President Trump announces his big, beautiful bill as Americans celebrate Independence Day. And the president reveals a certain secret about his wife Melania. Stay tuned to find out what that is. And it's not just jabs now. Weight loss apps and online therapists to be prescribed on the NHS for obesity. But will it work? Bit of royal stuff for you. King Charles and Queen Camilla wrap up their royal week in Scotland after celebrating the country's culture and achievements. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. So thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate how busy weekends are for you all out there, and so I really appreciate your company at the weekend lunchtime, because I know there's so much to do. But the most important thing for you to do is stay with me, keep me company and talk to me. Really easy to get involved in all our conversations at gbnews.com/your say about whatever you want to talk about. We are here for you, remember, and I'm going to read out as many as I possibly can because lots of you are already getting in touch. I promise I will. OK, let's get cracking, shall we? OK, but we've got a treat for you. Before we move on, don't miss a very special programme tomorrow with young Eamon Holmes there. Sunday with Eamon is live at 3 o'clock tomorrow. He's coming straight after me. It'll be exciting, won't it? You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. I've worked with Eamon for a long time and I've got some stories I could tell you about him, but maybe I might later on, maybe I might tomorrow before Eamon comes on here. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? OK, let's get straight into today's stories, shall we? Yesterday marked 1 year since Sir Keir Starmer entered number 10, and here is the Prime Minister robustly defending his first year in office.
We also need to emphasise the very many good things we have done. Yes, that's been because we've pushed through on them, but they've made a material difference. I'm really proud of that, and we'll keep on punching through. I'm a hard enough to find out who it was who said that, so I can have a discussion with him.
Right, OK. Yeah, he reckons he's a hard nut now. OK, let me know. However, with a stagnant economy, a migration crisis, numerous U-turns, a crying Chancellor and the very real prospect of further tax rises this autumn, can Labour's first year in power really be considered a success? Joining me now to debate this is political commentator and director at Get Elected, Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, and political commentator Andy Williams. Thank you both. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio. I love having company in the studio. Now, I've been trying to be positive about this story, and the newspapers today are full of the stories about what Labour have achieved. And it does have to be said, gentlemen, that the numbers of achievements that are listed are quite teeny-weeny, and the numbers of failures are quite big. So what do you make of this, Matthew? Are you celebrating a happy birthday?
Well, I mean, 365 days ago, I actually thought, do you know what? At least we've got a stable, large majority government now that can make radical changes to the country.
So many of us, yes.
You know, even I as a Conservative going, well, we got absolutely smashed, so fingers crossed the country's in a better place. Oh, God, what a waste of a year. I mean, you know, from U-turn to U-turn, cut to uncut, you know, we've had 2 Tier 3 gear. Did you know he was son of a toolmaker Keir? You know, it's...
No.
He hasn't mentioned it, has he?
No.
I know.
Oh, my God. So, wasn't his family something to do with the NHS as well? I'm a bit confused about that
I mean, you said that the papers are full of Labour positives. Well, I don't see how you could even make a pamphlet about it. It's been a really disappointing year, and that's... Obviously, I'm going to say that, but frankly, for the country's sake, we need this government to start using this massive majority it's got to do the radical things this country needs. That, hands held up, we did not do with our 80-seat majority, and that's why we lost the election. I just hope that they get a grip for year 2, 3, 4 and year 5. It's a long way.
Andy, so I'm going to put it down to you to list the achievements in your own time.
Thank you.
I thought that was it. That was
achievements.
Weighted silence there.
First thing to say is, of course, it's been a disappointing year, and I think I would be laughed at, and any credibility such that I have would be thrown out of the window if I came on here and said it's been absolutely superb and Labour have nailed it and look at all of these fantastic achievements. It has not been a good year. The communications has been unbelievably poor, and I do think that's been a part of it. There's a clear lack of strategy, which is the biggest problem at the heart of this government, is that Starmer himself actually doesn't have a holistic vision for the country. Not only does he not have that vision himself, but he's not projected that to the British public, and I think that is a real problem. There have been achievements, and I'll list a few. Firstly, I think he has, on the international stage, and I know that people don't feel as though this is something that affects their day-to-day lives, but on the international stage, he has been a massive upgrade from any of the Tory Prime Ministers we had in the previous 14 years. He is credible. He has built strong relationships with Donald Trump, and who could have seen that coming? That is not easily done, by the way. He's built great relationships with Macron in France, with Merz in Germany, and he has moved us a little bit closer to the EU, but not in any way, in a way that sort of discredits Brexit. So I think really good achievements there. 3 trade deals, some of them thin, but nonetheless a stronger arrangement with the European Union, a trade deal with the United States, and, most importantly, a trade deal with India. Credit to Rishi Sunak, by the way, for kicking that one off, but he did get it over the line. If you look at the NHS, waiting lists are coming down. It's early days. There was no chance that the Labour government was going to fix the NHS in 12 months, but it is making some progress. It has invested a lot more money. We need greater productivity in the NHS, but we're starting to see progress there. Big expansion of free school meals, I think, has been really, really important. But otherwise, yes, it has been thin. Now, the case for being optimistic is that there are 4 years to go, and I think they're learning from their mistakes, and there have been many, and they are learning from their mistakes. But actually, they still have that big majority. The question now is whether that majority can actually be harnessed in a way that they can do any of the very difficult things they need to do. And the one thing I'd say, and this is my frustration as someone on the right of the Labour Party, is shock horror. You try and get a small amount of welfare reform done, and let's be clear, 5 billion in the scheme of things is not a great deal. Try to get a small bit of welfare reform done, and the left of the Labour Party decide they're happy to tank the government if it means getting a few £1 billion a year off the welfare bill. So they need to get back in their box and realise that if this government is going to succeed, and if Keir Starmer is going to be Prime Minister in 2, 3, 4 years' time, the left need to get on board.
He might not be Prime Minister by Christmas, the way it's
but
been going.
Hang on, can I just say one thing on that, Matthew, is I've sat at this desk with all sorts of presenters and commentators who've said, Rachel Reeves will be gone by the spring, she'll be gone by the summer, she'll be gone next month. Let's be clear, they are safe as houses for now. I really think they are. I actually think there's a very good chance Keir Starmer fights the next election. But you're right, they have to deliver, they have to get the House in order.
I think the problem is Labour's majority, which we said a year ago, it is a mile wide but an inch deep. So many of their MPs, first-time MPs who are probably selected as paper candidates, have only a couple of hundred vote majority. That's gone already, by the way. That's gone if there was an election tomorrow. So I think the pressure is going to really start turning up as MPs start going, right, well, we've had a year, 2 years, 3 years. What am I actually going to say to my constituents in 12, 24 months' time and say, this is what a brilliant Labour government has delivered for you that you can see on the street? That's going to be a real problem. And you know, I completely agree. The hard left of the Labour Party seems intent to be a thorn in the side of Keir Starmer. Maybe they'll go and join this new hard left sour grapes party with Sultana and old dried up raisin Jeremy Corbyn.
Well,
I don't know.
They can crack on because these people are, you know, they really are truly irrelevant. I mean,
but
Jeremy
if it takes 10% of the vote away from Labour, which people are saying is a possibility.
And that is not an irrelevance. And I think the difference between, I think Jeremy Corbyn's involvement is really important here because for some reason he's a deity to the left and they love him. And if Corbyn's involved and if Corbyn's the face of it, yeah, they're going to get votes, and that's a concern. If it's Zara Sultana who's saying, oh, join Team Zara, I mean, the idea that anybody in Britain knows who Zara Sultana is, apart from the 3,000 people who turn up at rallies held by Zara Sultana, is laughable. I mean, thank God she's left the Labour Party. These people just need to, we need to just get rid of them, get rid of the left. But I would say that if you look back at previous governments, Tony Blair always says his biggest regret is that he wasted his first term, his first 4 years in office. Not many governments make huge progress.
Margaret Thatcher was notoriously unpopular in her first year.
Exactly. It took the Falklands War to save her in her first term. Actually, all of her achievements, and we could have a whole separate debate about that, but were in her second and third terms. So it is early days. And actually, the big intractable problems we need to solve in this country, which are the NHS, welfare, public services, the tax system, which we need to blow up and start again, all of those things do take time. So let's judge this government let's check in a year and let's judge them again in 2 years' time and in 3 years' time. We'll see where we are. But I believe that they can turn it around, but nobody is pretending it's been great.
You might be the only person who thinks they can turn it around the way that the polling is going. You know, let's give them credit where credit's due. They have achieved a lot of records this year. Record levels of illegal immigration, record tanking in the polls, and a record unpopularity approval rating. So, you know, it has been one of those years where I get it. First year in government is always difficult. First year in government, you've got to steady the ship, start setting out your vision. I do actually, what you said, Andy, completely right. Keir Starmer is a man without a vision. And I think that's what's really, really difficult. Voters out there don't really know what this Labour Party stands for, don't really know what this Labour Party's plans or promises are. Everything that was in the manifesto was ripped up on day one. That's the problem. And why should we be surprised? Keir Starmer, for the 14 years in opposition, constantly never came up with an opinion. He was Captain Flip-Flop. So, yeah, this Labour government is going to be really interesting over the next few years to see. I hope that we do, for the benefit of the country, politics and party aside, we need a strong and stable government. And at the moment, they can't get even their own bills through with a humongous...
Can I push back on a couple of things there? I think, firstly, we need to be really wary of polling. You know, polling matters. close to the election. Polling does not matter. It really, really doesn't matter 4 years before a general election.
But doesn't it tell you, sorry to interrupt, but doesn't it tell you how people are thinking?
Yeah.
And if you are Labour, Keir Starmer, wouldn't you be looking at those polls and going, there's something not right here? Wouldn't you be looking at the front page of the newspapers and going, wouldn't you be looking at your tearful Chancellor next to you and be going, there is something not right here? So polls do matter. It gives them a hint of where they're going.
It does, and they shouldn't ignore them, but it's not necessarily where we're going to be in 4 years' time when there's going to be a general election. The Tories were polling at their height 55% in the last Parliament and 19% at the nadir. It really is politics is very volatile these days. Reform haven't been tested. They have an incredibly divisive leader. They have policies that make Liz Truss look like a bastion of fiscal conservatism. So, let's see what happens when reform come under an ounce of scrutiny. But I do think that the key thing is there's time. It's not true that Keir Starmer is the most unpopular Prime Minister ever. I'm not saying he's popular and his popularity has dwindled, but there is time and they have serious ideas and they just need to crack on and implement them.
Matthew, final word to you. If it's not Keir Starmer, if, as you predict, he might be a bit toast and taking Rachel Reeves with him, who takes over?
Well, that's the worry. You look at the cabinet and you think, I wouldn't want any of them at all. I hear rumours that Wes Streeting's the guy who's being lined up. I think that could be really, really interesting. A man that actually, he has got one of the most difficult departments to deal with and seems to be starting to push things through. So who knows? But yeah, you worry. You've got, that cabinet is just dreadful. David Lammy, God, could you imagine? Angela Rayner,
Can I just say something about firstly, I really don't... Keir Starmer is going absolutely nowhere. The problem with Wes is that and I don't agree with this, but the problem with Wes is that the Labour Party membership would never elect him.
Interesting times, gentlemen. Thank you both very much.
Thank
That is Matthew Goodwin-Freeman and Andy Williams. And Andy, you have to get married now, aren't you?
I am.
Not literally now.
No.
You're very much the groom to be.
This time next week, yeah.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. So let me know. You've heard what the lads have got to say. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Don't forget, you can stay with us all day, not just on TV, but on radio and on your smart speaker as well. To listen to us on that smart speaker, just go play GB News on TuneIn. And it works, evidently. Well, hey. And we're also giving a load of money away as well. It's time for our Great British Giveaway. It's our biggest cash prize ever. And it's a totally tax-free £54,321. You know that by now. It's all up for grabs and it could all be yours. Here's how you win it.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, lots of you are getting in touch about the first year of Labour in government. And Wendy says, oh, Andy, I think it's one named at you, Andy. Starmer is laughed at on the world stage as weak, giving away the Chagos Islands as well. We haven't mentioned that particular delight, have we? At great cost to the British taxpayer. Extended 12 years of super trawling in our waters, which will destroy precious fish stocks. The Americans and Israelis don't trust us, don't take us seriously.
That's not true.
As for the Chinese, OK. And Grimbarian, that's an interesting name, says, Starmer, everything is a bit thin. Starmer has no vision for the UK because he's a Davos man. Lots of people say that, don't they? And Stephen says, if Starmer and Reeves are the best Britain has, it's time to pack up and go. Laughably inept. Ooh, keep those coming in, those messages there. Now, OK, we have some live breaking news for you, I believe, which is coming up any minute now. Not yet. Not yet. It is still coming through. I'm relying on the team back there, who obviously are frankly rubbish. OK, no, we have got some live breaking news for you, which is coming up now. OK, we'll take a quick break and then we will bring you this live breaking news. I promise, it's really good. It's worth waiting for.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Where Anna Riley, our intrepid reporter, is doing the toughest job in television right now, which is enjoying the sunshine. Anna.
Yes, Tom, it's definitely a tough gig for me today, I'll tell you. I'm on the Bridlington Fun Park ride here. This is the zero gravity ride. This fun park is, off we go. This fun park is right next to the sea. Oh, it goes quite quickly, I'll tell you. And people are out enjoying rides like this one. Off we go. It's a great boost for tourism, and we've been speaking to people here in Bridlington about what's so great about the sunshine. Let's have a listen.
We're on holiday. We've been here since last Friday, so we can't complain. It's been beautiful, and we're here till Monday, so we're really looking forward to the hot weather. As you can see, the sunburn.
It's lovely. It really is very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous. We deserve it, definitely. It's good. We like the warm weather. Yes, very nice. Loving it. Yes, like the warm enough. weather.
Woo! Well, this ride is showing no signs of stopping, and neither is the sunshine. We're getting that heat wave at the weekend. Enjoy the weather and enjoy fun rides like this one. Get to Bridlington and get to the fun park.
Oh my gosh! Absolute bravo, Anna Riley. What an incredible piece of television. I hope they let you off at some point.
I thought they'd only do it once or twice. Bless her.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, in the last few minutes, Reform UK has confirmed that MP James McMurdoch has removed the party's whip from himself and will now sit as independent MP, taking Reform's number of MPs down to 4. OK, right, I've still got my wonderful panel here with me, Matthew Goodwin-Freeman and Andy Williams. Andy, you look quite happy with this news? Is that the right way to put it?
No, I wouldn't say happy. And firstly, we don't know what the nature of this business impropriety is yet. So I'm not happy about it. But look, this absolutely underscores the massive problem that Reform has. For all of it being, you know, at 30-ish% in the polls and clearly gaining popularity, they have had 6 MPs elected since the general election, and 2 of them have now resigned or lost the whip. James McMurdoch here and Rupert Murdoch previously. So they've already
Rupert
not Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
So they've already lost a third.
They've
lost a third of their MPs in a year since the general election. This guy, James McMurdoch, and I've said this on air before, he should never have been a candidate in the first place because this man was convicted for domestic violence and jailed for pushing his girlfriend to the ground and kicking her. That is a matter of fact and a matter of public record, and people like that should not be in Parliament. It says a lot about Reform that he's there, and it's no surprise that someone with that character has ended up in this position.
Okay.
It is a massive, massive problem for Reform that their candidates and their MPs are not serious people.
OK, James obviously isn't here to defend himself, but the statement does say that he has removed the party whip from himself pending the outcome of an investigation into allegations that are likely to be published by a national newspaper tomorrow. The allegations relate to a business propriety during the pandemic and before he became an MP. At Reform UK, we take these matters very seriously, and James has agreed to cooperate in full with any investigation. Matthew, what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, you know, taking what Andy was saying, this is a big problem for Reform. They are a very small set of MPs, but they are polling and leading, you know, the discussion, really. And so to have one of their MPs having to take the whip away from themselves because of something in their past that probably should have been found out about when, you know, they were going through vetting. I completely appreciate Reform will say, you know, when everything came out first about James, you know, about a year ago now, when everything came out first about him and people went, oh, well, how didn't that get through vetting? Sort of people just swept it under the carpet, moved on, he stayed sort of in the background. This is another thing, a year later, coming out. And it really points the finger at Reform saying, where is this vetting you're talking about? Because you've said before how, you know, you've gone and got companies to do vetting for you and they haven't done it. I know Nigel's said that many times before. If you're going to be a serious party, if you're leading the polls and going to be the next government, you need to be sorting your vetting out as a basic. And that's a frustration because there are a lot of people out in the country who really want Reform. They want this change. They want the two-party system gone. They want Reform to be the next government. And this is just another kick in the teeth for those people going, oh, can I really trust them?
If I was going to be generous, it's actually an opportunity for Reform to show that, and again, we don't know the nature of you know, the allegations.
It's a business impropriety by the sounds of it. That's
yeah,
what they are saying.
COVID-related by the sounds of it. So, but it's an opportunity for them to show that they're ruthless and that they're serious and that they're professionalising, because that's what we keep hearing is that, you know, they've installed David Bull as chairman, and by the way, I know David a bit and I like him very much, even though our politics is completely different. He's a serious person. Zia Yusuf is a serious person. They should respond to this by saying, we are professionalising, we won't stand having people like that in our party, and we're going to put proper vetting procedures in place, and at the next election we're going to make damn sure that our candidates are serious people and that stuff like this isn't going to
potentially, you know, obviously we were saying last year when everything came out about James Murdoch when he was elected, you know, when that, I remember it about 2-3 a.m. in the morning, people saying, oh, Reform might pick up another seat here, you know, there's a recount going on, and people then started digging into James's history. This all came out. You're very right, this might be an opportunity for Reform to go, look, the vetting last year wasn't good enough, this has all come out and I'm sorry, but no more, right, he's gone. And then that's an opportunity for them to say, as you said, professionalised. We now have a new vetting criteria, a higher bar, a higher standard of vetting, so that any future candidates ahead of the next election, because they're going to have to start selecting, you know, 650 candidates, any new election, any new candidate has to hit a higher bar. They can come up with whatever excuse for vetting failures in the past, understandable, maybe not. At least this is out in the open now, and we'll find out in the next coming days what happens exactly. But I agree with you, this is an opportunity for Reform to say, we hear it, we understand, we are a professional party and this isn't good enough.
Yes, there is no two ways about it. To lose a third of your MPs, to lose 2 out of 6 in the first year, I mean, that's pretty poor, isn't it?
Look, I'm not here to defend Reform, but I will defend them slightly on this. That's because they're a very small party. Look at the Labour Party. Look how many MPs were suspended over the 2-child benefit vote.
Well, yeah, that's not the same.
Look at, you know, Zara Sultana just gone. That's one MP. It's purely a matter of proportions. If Reform were 10% in the polls and they're 6 MPs, 5 MPs, 4 MPs, then it wouldn't bat an eyelid.
I don't know.
The fact that there's an alignment here between where they're polling and the discussions they're leading and actually the size they are. But I take the point. I don't think it's a very fair argument to make. I'm not here to defend them, but I just want to be fair to everybody.
You can't argue with the maths,
I don't think it's
Matthew.
a fair argument to make.
You can't argue with the maths. I mean, 2 out of 6 is bad. It's really bad. It's really, really poor. And then Sarah Potchin, who recently got elected in the by-election, her first act as an MP is to stand up in the Commons and call for a ban on the burqa. I mean, this is...
Which her constituents suggested as a question to do.
Which
actually, I'd like MPs to listen to their constituents.
In theory, Sarah was doing her job, basically. That was a question she was asked to put.
There is no evidence to suggest that even close to one of the top issues in this country is whether or not we should ban the burqa. People care about the cost of living, people care about the NHS, public services. That is a dog whistle policy to stand up and call for as your first act as an MP.
Well, it got her attention, and also it was...
Definitely got her attention.
The point is that, I take it quite encouragingly, she put out a video before Prime Minister's Questions saying to her constituents, suggest what question you want me to ask and I'll pick one. I will ask what you want. I actually think, Prime Minister's Questions, you can ask whatever you like. I actually quite like the fact MPs are now going to their constituents and saying, what do you want me to ask? Not what I think you want. Tell me exactly. But look, we can debate what Sarah Pochin said in her first PMQs. The breaking news is obviously about James, and let's see what Reform's reaction is.
Yeah, Reform have said they aren't commenting at the moment because it is a live investigation, so we know what we know, and we won't be getting any more on it until that investigation is underway. But, I mean, the question here is, do we expect too much of our MPs?
Can I go straight in on that? No.
I don't think it's too much to expect not to be, something with your business proprietary, obviously former criminal convictions.
That's not a very high bar, is it?
It's not a very high bar. I think what's happened here, and Reform admitted this last year, was when everything came out about James, they admitted, and Nigel, I remember saying, we paid for a vetting company to do the vetting for our parliamentary candidates, and they did not get through everybody, and they did not do it. So people slipped through. Perhaps James is one of those who slipped through. I don't know. But the point is that their opportunity now is to say, we have a new vetting company, a new vetting process, a new policy for the standards that we expect. Being blunt, people like James would not have got through it, is what they should probably say next.
Sorry, just reading an email out from, please do keep in touch on this one, gbnews.com/you'll say, a message from Bridget, and she said, please tell the guys used to that all the members of Reform have already received an email regarding new vetting procedures. So it does sound like they, as you both said, are taking it seriously and making changes to that, which...
That's encouraging to hear. Actually.
A positive, yeah, absolutely. And Caroline has said many MPs do have a murky past. So of all parties, I mean, this is the part of the question about do we expect too much? They are human beings, and we do tend to forget that a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think that's a really fair point. We do risk having a situation and ending up with a parliament where people are too scared to go into public life because the slightest misdemeanour, a photo on social media of someone having had a few too many drinks, really small things, becomes something that bars you from, I wouldn't want to go into Parliament for all sorts of reasons, and I know that there are. And I know that there are. I know that there are lots. I know that there are lots of people who feel the same. I mean, the scrutiny is significant, and so it should be. But we have to get the balance right, because if we constantly say we want honest politicians, we want human beings in politics, but actually sometimes the standard we hold them to means that we produce robots. I mean, that is the reality.
Good point. Actually,
the flip side is
one of the robots is currently occupying number 10. But it's. Taking your point, I genuinely do agree with you. We have to remember these are humans. People make mistakes. But the bar to be a member of Parliament is, I think, it's that criminal level. Everyone's allowed human mistakes. Everyone's allowed to make
we're not
errors
excusing criminality here. We don't know what's going on here in this story. But
that level in the past cannot be acceptable. Let's see what this investigation might go through and find absolutely nothing wrong. This is getting ahead of the story and seeing what might happen. Okay. It might not. But we don't know that at this point.
We don't. And the investigation will continue, and as soon as Reform give us any statement, we'll bring it to you as well. OK, Matthew and Andy, thank you very much for joining me on that one. And let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today, in particular that breaking story about James Murdoch suspending the whip from himself. Very easy to get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say, and join in our conversation. There is loads more coming up on today's show. It finally happened. After months of anticipation, Oasis performed for the first time in 16 years last night in Cardiff in front of thousands of delighted fans. But after the break, as Starmer prepares to meet Macron next week, reports suggest the French president will pressure the PM to recognise Palestine as a state. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News, and we'll see you very soon.
Hello there, this is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Quite dull and damp for many of us during this first half of the weekend, all courtesy of an area of low pressure that is generally in control across the UK. It's steadily moving eastwards, but we've got this trailing weather front providing a lot of clouds, some outbreaks of rain across southern districts. Some of those might be heavy for Cornwall, particularly the Channel Islands into this afternoon. We do also have a rain warning still in force across western Scotland today. We've seen quite a lot of rain build up over recent days or so, and those will continue throughout today as well. Quite a brisk breeze around for the vast majority of us. You certainly will notice that if you're out by the coast or on any of the mountains and hills. Those to the east of the UK, though, do have the greater chance of seeing a little bit more in the way of brightness and some sunshine. That may allow temperatures to climb towards 21 degrees Celsius for Aberdeen there. Again, parts of northeastern England may see the cloud break at times across the East Midlands down towards East Anglia as well. And here it could feel quite humid and amongst all that cloud, top temperatures of 25, maybe locally 26 degrees Celsius. We hold on to this fairly damp, cloudy picture as we head into the overnight period as well. Again, always those eastern areas likely to see a few more in the way of clear spells, but the showers may intensify a touch across North Wales into northern England come dawn tomorrow morning. With the cloud and the breeze, it's going to be a mild night for all of us, temperatures holding around 13 to 16 degrees Celsius. Do watch out for some heavy downpours across England and Wales first thing tomorrow. They could be thundery in places, though some very sharp downpours possible as we head throughout the morning there. Some further showers continuing to push in on that northwesterly breeze, but with those winds shifting in direction, it should hopefully feel a touch fresher tomorrow. Those temperatures will be down, highs only around 24 degrees Celsius in the south and the east. Whilst further cloud and rain is possible across northwestern areas into next week, generally it will be settling down towards the south and those temperatures will be climbing as well. Bye-bye.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this Saturday afternoon. Now, according to reports, Emmanuel Macron is urging Sir Keir Starmer to recognise Palestine as a state. This comes just days before the French president arrives in the UK for a 3-day visit, where he's expected to raise the issue with the Prime Minister in private talks. For its part, Israel staunchly opposes such a move, arguing it would reward Hamas. To discuss this story, I'm now joined by live peer and former Labour MP, Lord Walney. Hello, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, Lord Walney. What do you make of this story?
Well, look, Keir Starmer should join a long list of centuries of British Prime Ministers who say no to the French when they come up with stupid ideas on the international stage. He shouldn't fall in with President Macron on this. I think you just need to look at this issue, this intractable issue of how you achieve peace in the Middle East. And anything more than a cursory glance at that shows that this would do nothing to actually further the cause of achieving a viable state for the Palestinian people. In fact, if anything, countries like the United Kingdom and France, in some way recognizing Palestine as a state, it's unclear what that would mean, could actually set the goal back. It would certainly further weaken the United Kingdom's ability to act as an influential broker and friend of Israel and the Palestinian people. It's just a bad idea.
I think you're suggesting it.
Well, people have been, understandably frustrated, anguished for many, many years on the issue of being able to find a viable, peaceful solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. In particular, I understand why people look at the suffering in Gaza now, look at the fears of Israelis and think, wouldn't it be great if we could just achieve this and get two states living side by side with each other? But I'm afraid it is typical Western arrogance to think that you can pronounce from hundreds and hundreds of miles away what you think the solution is, when in fact the only way in which peace is going to be achieved is by a deal between the Palestinian people and the Israelis. And after the atrocities, the grotesque butchery of Hamas's attacks on the 7th of October 2023 and Israel's response to that, that is a long way away at the moment, and you can't magic a solution simply by saying, okay, well, we recognise one side in the conflict.
I mean, Israel have said that, this would be the worst thing that you could do because it would be seen as a reward to Hamas. I mean, do you think they've got a point by saying that?
Yeah, I think they do on this. I mean, if Hamas, with its strings pulled by the Iranian regime, committed that unspeakable atrocity, murdering civilians and intentionally plunged the region into conflict, with them showing you very little typically for the lives of the civilian Palestinians that they are supposed to represent. And if then 2 years on from that, the response to Israel taking steps to defend itself, whether or not you believe in the strategy at the moment, but if your response is to recognise Palestine, again, not really understanding what the borders of that would be, who would run it, how you would achieve that, then yes, that will be taken as a great victory for Hamas and their Iranian masters, and it will be seen in very critical terms, I think, on the domestic front here in the UK as well.
Yeah, it did. So, how do you expect our Starmer to deal with this? Well, what should he say?
He should just say no, and say this is not the right time. And I can see and understand the frustration that the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary and others have in looking at how intractable the conflict seems to be, and wanting to play whatever role you can to bring it to an end, and that not happening. But they mustn't be seduced by siren voices, whether they come from across the Channel in France or in truth, some within their own ranks, either within the Foreign Office or Labour supporters, to think that they can do what would have no effect on no positive effect on achieving peace, would be seen as virtue signalling. And look, you shouldn't look at these things through a domestic political lens, because things change, and it's really, really important. But I know that there will be some people on the fringes of the Labour Party who will be thinking, well, this would be an important signal at a time when Labour risks losing support amongst Muslim voters to this potential for a new independent party.
Was that Jeremy Corbyn?
That
yes.
would be extreme folly if they did that, because there are very many more people, in greater numbers of people, who would look at that and say, look, we do not want our foreign policy as a country being influenced by the kind of demonstrations for Gaza that have been highly intimidating that we've seen on our streets. So on a range of issues, you should just put this back in its box.
Thank you very much, Lord Warner. We have unfortunately run out of time. That's our life peer and former Labour MP, Lord Warner, there. Thank you very much for your time. Now, we're moving on. Patients will be provided with virtual therapists and weight loss apps on the NHS as part of the government's 10-year plan to revolutionise the NHS health service. The NHS will be required to pay for the apps and other digital products that are proven to improve health. Weight loss injections were recently made available on the NHS for some people with obesity. I'm joined now by the body positivity influencer and actor George Keywood. George, thank you very much for joining me on this one. Does this sound like a good idea to you?
I mean, I get where they're coming from. They want to inform people, they want to check on people, they want to make sure people are doing it correctly. But my only concern is, are we not wasting more money again? You know, I mean, this is the issue, isn't it? I think we've always got a solution, but then we end up going on to another path. Now we're going to end up getting loads of privatized companies to make these apps, and I just feel like it's a burn of money. There's so much more information out there these days. People are aware of what they're taking or what they're potentially going to be taking. I think as long as they have the right information and they are checked correctly when doing the assessments on whether or not to take Mounjaro or not, is the most important time. And I think after that, you kind of already know what you're doing. I mean, I've been doing it 9 months now, and I'm fully aware of what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. Now, on the flip side of that, I do believe that it would be good to have routine checks with people to make sure that, you know, everything is working okay and there's no problems in other terms of their health, you know, whilst they're taking the drug. But I do believe that this could be another waste of money, you know, paid by the taxpayers like myself once again. And that's kind of disappointing because, you know, it is great that we're going to roll out apparently they're going to roll it out on the NHS to everybody that would hit that criteria for being able to do it. But I just feel like it's going to be so much money wasted on, you know, softwares and apps. And that's not really what we're doing this for. We're doing this to make change. And I think that those things could be somewhat unnecessary, even though I do believe that people should have the correct information to be able to know what they're taking, you know.
George, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, most people are aware of what they do need to do to control obesity, to control their own weight and to look after their own health. So having, as you say, another expensive app, and many people won't access it as well. Certainly the elderly will struggle with it. It just feels like another layer of bureaucracy that will stop people, you know, who do need help, actually just getting to see a real-life physical person who can give them the help they need.
Exactly. And I think, if anything, what they should be doing is saying, hold on, we've got these, you know, clinics already in most GPs where they're there for, you know, diabetes and stuff. So maybe those people should be taking on the task of being able to communicate with people, like you say, with elderly people that are overweight and need to lose weight that will go on it. They're not going to use their smartphone to go on an app. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I just see it being a waste of money. And we know that this government loves to waste money. So I'm pretty sure they'll continue doing it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, George Keywood there. Another strong opinion on GB News. However, that's what this channel is about, and it's about your strong opinions as well. So gbnews.com/yoursay and let me know what you're thinking about that story in particular. Now, if you are in search of some holiday sun, you are bikini body ready, as they say in the trade. Here is a forecast for some of those top European destinations for you.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across southern and eastern parts of Europe, the heat wave continues, this at times triggering some thunderstorms. But across much of southern Europe, it should remain mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. But as we head our way towards northwest Spain, southern parts of France and across Switzerland, it's likely that we'll see some intense thunderstorms, some hail and also some frequent lightning. But moving away eastwards across the Mediterranean, the settled conditions will continue. So plenty of sunshine into next week, but still those intense temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Yes, indeed. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Just ignore Nigel Farage. That's Boris Johnson's advice to the Tories, as he claims that the best strategy to counter the reform surge. Do you think he's right there? But after the break, we're going royal. King Charles and Queen Camilla wrap up their royal week in Scotland after celebrating the country's culture and achievements. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News. Don't get too far. We'll see you soon.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Is J.K. Rowling an extremist, radicalised TERF?
It's extraordinarily patronising to suggest that a woman who's created whole new magical worlds from her own imagination has to be radicalised by other people in order to form her own views. That in itself I find extremely patronising. And, you know, a man may think that women don't have our own rich inner life and form our own political views, but we do, as Nana's just demonstrated. But secondly, there's nothing radical about believing that men and women are material realities, and sometimes in law, in policy, in life, that matters. That's her position. It's a very common, in fact, it's a majority position.
James, what is a woman?
But that's Nana.
Well, no, I'm just wondering. Well, it's just a simple question because no. I'm just asking, what is a woman then? Because do you believe that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man?
Yes, because man and woman is gendered.
So what is a woman? So what is a woman?
There is male and there is female, which is sex. This is the problem that I think a lot of you have. I'm a feminist. I believe in women's rights. I believe in women's safety. But the problem here is we are focusing on an absolute minority of people who have no, you know, when you look at it in the round, who have no threat to women. You know, statistically, have
you
no
don't know
threat
that.
to
You
women
listen.
in the way
you
that,
don't. The threat to women.
Sorry, not in the way
threat
that
to
men
women.
are. This is the whole problem. Is that you saying man dressing up as a woman?
Yes.
That's despicable, Nana.
Well, it's the truth.
That is not the reality.
What else?
Nana, do you have any trans friends?
I have plenty of them.
Do you mix with trans people?
I have mixed with trans people. I mix with all people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you for your company. King Charles and Queen Camilla have wrapped up Royal Week in Scotland after celebrating the country's cultural and achievements. GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker has this special report for us.
A farmer's market in the summer rain. For King Charles, an opportunity to praise local businesses in Western Scotland.
Are you sure?
I'm prompted, yes.
From sheep farmers to cheesemakers.
Looks wonderful. Thank you very much. Riveting. You just have to refrain until different cheeses being made. It's the right moment.
His Majesty also quick to put a local gardener at ease.
I don't think everything's quite the standard of your own gardens, but I'm not sure. Don't worry about that. We all have our desires.
Campbelltown is in a remote part of Scotland with a population of just under 5,000 people. It's starting to be revitalised, but a royal visit such as this, which is high profile, it's hoped could provide a much-needed boost to the local economy. That boost showcased inside the town hall. Glen Scotia Whiskies, whose 25-year-old recently won a special prize, offered the King a wee dram and gifted him a specially engraved bottle.
Yes, that would have been excellent.
Here's Master Distiller Ian McAllister.
For us at the distillery, for the team, for the brand, it was a really, it was a big milestone. So we're all incredibly proud of that one. So we want to share that and want them to take it with us.
You're looking well. You're looking well, King.
The rain eased just in time for the King to greet the public on Main Street, popping into local businesses on the way.
We have some lovely Kintyre eggs.
He met Linda McLean, owner of the Kintyre Larder.
We also have some tablet, which is locally made just up the street here. We're delighted to have everybody here today, and it's lovely that the town is buzzing and we're excited.
At the quay, the King thanks the Coast Guard and RNLI for their tireless work saving lives at sea, and met youth groups, the next generation of volunteers. The King will be in Windsor next week, hosting the French president for a state visit. All this as he continues weekly cancer treatment. Cameron Walker, GB News in Campbelltown.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much for that report, Cameron. Lots of you have been getting in touch about the subjects we've been talking about. Jane says, the NHS app has been available for the past 5 years at least. Yeah, Jane, this is a new version of the app. There was a special section for obesity and weight loss drugs. But keep those messages coming in at gbnews.com/you'll say. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show, but don't go anywhere because it is, yes, time for the weather forecast. Here it is.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. That summer feeling is lacking somewhat this weekend with quite a brisk breeze, rain and showers around for many of us. It's all because low pressure is in charge at the moment. You'll notice a lot of isobars on the chart here indicating where that breeze is coming in from the west, and a few frontal systems here continuing to bring outbreaks of rain as we head into this evening. To start off with, those are mostly on the light side, but we could see them intensifying, particularly across northern Wales into northern England as we head towards the second half of the night. With the cloud, the rain and the breeze, it is going to be a mild night, quite muggy in places as well. Temperatures only dropping back to 13 or 17 degrees Celsius. That does lead us into a pretty damp and dreary start to Sunday then. A lot of cloud right across the board for Scotland again with those further outbreaks of rain. Generally on the lighter side here, quite drizzly in nature. A lot of extensive cloud cover for Northern Ireland as well. It could be quite misty and murky around some coastal districts and hill fog over the mountains as well. For England and Wales, though, worth watching out for those heavier downpours first thing on Sunday. They will tend to push their way southeastwards as we head throughout the day, and there is the potential that they could be thundery in nature with some hail in the mixture as well. So they could come on quite short notice. Some further showers drifting in for Northern Ireland and Scotland into the afternoon as well, coming in on that brisk northwesterly wind. That will be starting to introduce some slightly fresher conditions. That does, though, mean that temperatures will be a notch down tomorrow, highs around 24 degrees Celsius. Those showers just continuing to drift their way off as we head into Sunday evening, and things generally starting to dry off a bit, and that is because high pressure is trying to build its way in for next week. So the showers will generally become fewer and further between, more in the way of sunshine breaking through as well, and those temperatures are set to climb. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on Saturday the 5th of July and this is the weekend on GB News. Your main stories this hour. Breaking news this afternoon, James McMurdoch has withdrawn the reform whip from himself. The Sunday Times alleges he took out £70,000 worth of loans under the government's bounce back scheme during the pandemic through 2 companies that he owned. And Rachel Reeves warns cabinet ministers that tax rises are likely as she admits the government's watered-down welfare bill has been damaging. So will the Chancellor be forced into breaking Labour's manifesto pledge and raise income tax, national insurance or VAT to fill that black hole? And Boris Johnson's advice to the Tories on the best strategy to counter reform's surge is just ignore Nigel Farage. Do you think he's right, though? And a primary school teacher killed almost 3 decades ago while trying to protect her class in the Dunblane shooting has been recognised with a new honour.
Yeah, nearly 30 years later, Gwen Mayer is going to be bestowed the Elizabeth Emblem, recognising her role in protecting children nearly 3 decades ago. One of 100 families that will be collecting it posthumously for public service.
What we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
Meanwhile, across the pond, President Trump announces his big, beautiful bill as Americans celebrate Independence Day. And the president reveals a secret about his wife, Melania. Stay tuned to find out what that is. Yeah, and we're rolling with it this afternoon. It finally happened after months of anticipation. Oasis performed for the first time in 16 years last night in Cardiff in front of thousands of delighted fans. I'm Dawn Newsom, and this is The Weekend. So thank you for your company this afternoon. I do genuinely appreciate how busy Saturdays are. But remember, if you are going out and about, you can take us on the radio as well. And we are on your laptops, on your smartphones. There is literally no escape. Because this show, like all GB News shows really, is about you and your views. And it's really, it couldn't be simpler actually to get involved. Simply go to gbnews.com/yoursay and join in the conversation. I will read as many out as I possibly can, including the ones that say I look a bit like Kermit. I know, it's green. OK, let's get cracking. But before we move on, have I got a surprise for you? What a treat for you tomorrow, because just after my lunchtime show tomorrow, there is a very special programme with Eamon Holmes. It's at 3 o'clock tomorrow, and you really won't want to miss it. OK, now let's get stuck into today's topics, shall we? We start with news that we broke in the last hour, and James McMurdoch has removed the reform whip from himself. The Sunday Times alleges that McMurdoch took out £70,000 worth of loans under the government's bounce back scheme during the pandemic through 2 companies that he owned. Reform say his pledge to cooperate in full with any investigation. He was elected as the Reform MP for South Basildon and East Thurrock exactly a year ago. And moving on, despite promising not to raise taxes on working people during last year's election campaign, Rachel Reeves has reportedly told her cabinet colleagues that taxes will have to rise in the autumn budget to cover the cost of Labour's decision to abandon its reforms to welfare. And in what could prove to be another serious PR blunder, this news comes on the same day as Keir Starmer releases this video promising to make Britain fairer and put more money in your pocket. Have a listen.
But I also know that at times he doesn't feel like Britain is fair enough for those people, the people who are getting on with it. And that's what drives me forward, at home or representing our interests abroad. I'm putting you first, making Britain fair for you again, building more affordable houses, fixing the NHS, securing our borders, giving your kids more opportunities, cleaning up our streets, putting more money in your pocket.
He's not reading the papers, is he? Because the front page of almost literally all your papers today have headlines like this. Reeves hints at more tax rise pain. Even The Guardian are saying that. I mean, every single one. So how can Starmer put that message out today saying, I'm putting more money in your pockets? And I don't think he is. Piers Pottinger is joining me now. Piers, can you make sense of that one? Or is it just me being a bit thick?
I do think Keir Starmer is on the planet Zog rather than planet Earth, because he seems to be completely delusional. Yesterday he gave an interview where he said he was proud as hell of Labour's achievements during the first year of government. I wonder what those achievements could be. It's a disaster, it's a catastrophe. And now Reeves, it won't be her crying when the budget comes. It'll be everyone else in the country will all be in tears because she's got no choice but to raise the taxes. And we're looking at, I mean, talk about, she's stopped talking about the black hole she invented that she supposedly inherited, because she's now created her own one of 30 billion, roughly. And it means this next budget's going to be even worse than the last one. It is absolutely extraordinary. And, I mean, the point is, you know, if you wanted one word to sum up this government, it is misery. Everything they do creates misery. Nobody has benefited from anything in this government. It's extraordinary. And the taxes she's talking about, they're going to be, as usual, she'll do them in a devious way to try and make it look as though she's not raising income tax, but she'll do everything she can. Punish savers, punish pensioners.
Pension pots was
punish
another...
farmers again. I mean, unless you are a public service trade union worker, you're not going to get anything out of this government ever.
But even, I mean, the irony, Piers, is even they're not happy.
No, they're not.
Even the trade unions aren't happy
well,
with
because
Labour.
they can smell blood. And when a weak government like this one starts doing U-turns, they rub their hands with glee, and we can imagine we are just waiting for the resident doctors, as the junior doctors now like to be called, to announce that they're going to strike this summer, cause more chaos, set the NHS back even further. Then we've got civil servants, nurses, teachers, all of them possibly striking this summer. And it's going to, yet again, I mean, history repeats itself. This is what happens when Labour governments get into power. And socialism has never worked anywhere in the world. And here is another example. Unfortunately, we are the people all suffering from this.
This is the problem, despite the Prime Minister saying this morning that he's putting more money in their pockets. Do you think, Piers, if they'd have been honest from day one, OK,
Yeah.
Labour, you know, remember the Rose Garden when he was warned it wasn't all going to be rosy,
Yeah.
no pun intended. You know, it was going to be tough. Do you think they'd have come out then and say, right, OK, we do have a bit of a black hole to fill. A 1p increase on the basic income tax. Do you think most of us would have swallowed that, rather than the mess we're in now, where they said, right, we're not going to touch income tax, we're not going to touch national insurance, and then a year on to have to go back on things? It's
well, I mean,
depressing.
they could have actually increased corporation tax, which in fact wouldn't have hurt business nearly as much as what they've done with the new national insurance tax, and also the employment rights bill coming. That's another thing which they've also quietly done a U-turn on this week, which hasn't been reported on because everyone's been focusing on the crying Chancellor. But Angela Rayner, meanwhile, very quietly, has moved a lot of what she was going to do in the employment rights bill to 2 years out, because she's too frightened to do it now and doesn't want to face another U-turn by the government. So they're caving in all around the place. At the same time, they've got a disunited party, very, very evident by the breakaway faction, and Labour, and nobody ever votes for a disunited party, as the Conservatives found out to their detriment.
Course.
And once a party starts fractioning and fracturing, rather, it's the end for them.
But they're four peers. I mean, you know, Labour have never tired in saying, you know, we are clearing up the mess that 14 years of the Tories made, and no one's defending what the Tories did. I mean, they made a mess of most things. But Labour should have learnt the lesson from the Tories, at the very least, to try and be honest, try and keep things together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dawn. I mean, these people, the reason Reform is doing so well is that if you ask Nigel Farage a question, he'll give you an answer, a straight answer. He may not like the question, he may feel uncomfortable about it, but he'll still answer it. You ask the government a question they don't like, they just ignore it. And the public are fed up with this. They're fed up with the politicians' obfuscation, prevarication, just basically downright refusing to answer difficult questions. And also, they're all out of their depth and they won't admit it.
Where does this end? What happens now?
Unfortunately, they've still got this very big majority. We've still got 4 years of this hell to tolerate. I personally doubt that the government will stay as it is for those 4 years. Angela Rayner, the more she says she doesn't want to be leader, the less I believe it. Right. And everyone else I know and talk to feels she is stepping up her very subtle, carefully run campaign to take over from Starmer. And I do believe that will happen. And she actually has got much more appeal to the electorate than Starmer has.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually a very valid point. I mean, Rachel Reeves, obviously, the autumn budget is coming up. We saw her sobbing, and I'm beginning to understand why she is sobbing now. And the personal, yeah, right, okay.
I mean, First of all, I was very, very sorry for her doing that. I mean, it's not nice to see. Exactly. You'd have to be a rock, of stone, not to feel sorry for her. But equally, if it was a personal matter, then she shouldn't have gone into the house.
Of course.
And also, how come that she was supposedly working that afternoon after this event, and the next day everything's absolutely bright and breezy, fine, wonderful. If it was that distraught, I mean, she was distraught, not just a little bit upset. She was distraught.
Yeah.
Now, why didn't she take a day off, recover? You know, instead, she's apparently back like that. Everything's fine. I don't believe that. I really don't believe it. I think the tensions within the upper echelons of the Labour Party, the government, and the ghastly trade unions is now very, very tense indeed. I think it's a very difficult situation.
And she is the one burdening this. She is the one bearing the brunt of the responsibility for the black hole, for raising money for more taxes. But she does have a boss in all of this.
And it's Keir Starmer. Yeah. And he, of course, has failed on everything he said he was going to do. He's broken all his pre-election pledges. And by the way, he was leading the coalition of the willing a few months ago to sort out Ukraine.
Oh, yes.
What's happened there?
Yes.
What's he doing there? Zero.
Well, he gets distracted quite easily.
And meanwhile, Kiev has received its worst bombing ever. I mean, the situation in Ukraine is deteriorating rapidly, and we could be handing Putin a victory, which would be devastating for the future of the world. And Starmer appears to just have abandoned Ukraine. And this, you know, his attempt to become the leader of Europe, which he was kind of touting himself as. Next week, we'll see more of this rather nauseating stuff with him and Macron when he comes over, which we'll all have to tolerate. And then they're going to announce an even more ridiculous idea of on immigration of one in, one out, which means nothing.
I don't even begin to understand that one. That doesn't even mean anything to me whatsoever.
It just gives the French an opportunity to send over all their worst criminals to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, gee, thanks for that one, boys. Just finally, Piers, how long do you give Keir Starmer as Prime Minister?
Well, he's very tough. He's very stubborn. I think he'll drive other people out before he goes.
Do you think he'll throw Rachel under the bus?
Yes, I do. I do. I think he's as cold as ice, very stubborn, very personally ambitious, and I don't think anyone else matters other than his own control and he's a power freak.
Indeed, strong words. As always, Piers Pottinger, thank you very much. Well, I mean, you've just heard what Piers says. Very strong words. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget, you can stay with us all day, but not just on TV. We're on your radio and on your smart speaker. To listen to us on your smart speaker, just say play GB News on TuneIn. Very clever. Now, as Reform UK continues to lead in the polls, Boris Johnson has suggested the best way to counter the threat posed by Nigel Farage is to simply ignore him. Speaking to a Swiss magazine, the former Prime Minister said that while he was in charge of the Conservative Party, the then Brexit Party never got above single figures in the polls. So is it time for the Conservatives to bring back Boris? Let's get the thoughts of the now deputy political editor at the Financial Times, Jim Pickard. Jim, well, you've heard that intro. Bring back Boris. Is this what the Conservative Party need?
I mean, it's very interesting listening to Boris Johnson saying just ignore Reform UK, ignore Nigel Farage. That was a lot easier a decade ago when Nigel Farage's parties were not doing so well in the polls. When they are polling multiple points ahead of the Conservatives and the Labour Party, it would be very bizarre for anyone to ignore them, given that, you know, if things continue on the trajectory they're on at the moment, then Nigel Farage could be the Prime Minister in 4 years' time. Now, of course, a lot of things could change between now and then. Scandals occur here and there. We have a fresh one involving a Reform MP only breaking in the last half an hour or so. But you know, if we are to believe the polls, then of course the media is not going to stop writing about Reform UK and Nigel Farage, and politicians are not going to stop talking about the challenge they face from this insurgent right-wing populist party. The question as well is whether Boris Johnson is privately thinking about coming back into politics. He says in this interview that he can't afford to because his wife Carrie needs a new kitchen. I think given how much money he charges to do speeches, I think he could buy hundreds of kitchens without any problem at all. So I don't take that very seriously at all. I think those people who've read his most recent book believe that he still wants to come back into politics. They believe that this book basically gives the impression that he was cut short in his prime. And when you talk to some Tory MPs, they think that Boris Johnson was problematic. They think that some members of the public haven't forgotten Partygate, which of course was part of his downfall. But when you think about what the Conservative Party needs right now, which is an alpha figure who can capture the public mood, capture attention, and be as popular as Nigel Farage, it doesn't look as if the current leadership is enough to be doing that.
It does indeed. Now, it's all very well, Boris, saying just to ignore reform and ignore Farage. It's difficult. Obviously, today we had the breaking news that James Murdoch has resigned his whip, pending investigation over a story that we believe is breaking in the newspapers tomorrow. What do you make of this one?
So the story has broken. Those of your viewers who want to read it can look at the Sunday Times. It's all there. The gist of the allegations, and we've not heard Murdoch's side of this, we haven't heard Reform UK's side of it, but the allegations in the Sunday Times are fundamentally that during the pandemic, you could take out these government loans called bounce back loans, but in order to do so, you needed to have a certain level of turnover. And the journalist Gabriel Pilgrim from the Sunday Times has gone through these two Murdoch companies, and they're basically shells. They have minimal assets. But I've just gone through Companies House myself, and these two companies have net assets of about £3,000 each. So on the face of it, you can see this is probably the reason why he referred himself to the Chief Whip, Lee Anderson. And we are all waiting with bated breath to find out what his version of events is. But he didn't seem to give much of an explanation or an excuse to the Sunday Times. He just told them to be very careful about what they've reported.
Mm-hmm. And just quickly, Jim, how damaging would this be to Reform?
So I have an interesting take on this, which is that Reform UK is basically Nigel Farage. And Nigel Farage, over the last 10 or 20 years, has gone through various incarnations of UKIP, Brexit Party, Reform, and lots of his colleagues have fallen by the wayside. They've either fallen out with him, or they've lost faith in the project, or they've been beset by scandal. And he just ploughs on. And I think he is at the heart of it. Without Nigel Farage, Reform UK would totally implode. But I think they can afford to lose Mr. Murdoch if he doesn't come back. And maybe he will turn out to be innocent and will come back. Let's see.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's Deputy Political Editor at the Financial Times, Jim Pickard. Jim, thank you very much. We will bring you more on that story as it develops, and I will be covering it on lunchtime for you tomorrow as well. Now, it is time for the Great British Giveaway, and it's our biggest ever cash prize. A totally tax-free £54,000, £321. It's up £54,321. How many times have I said it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's up for grabs. It could all be yours. Here's how you do it.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh, good luck indeed. We could all do with a bit of that, couldn't we? I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show.
What we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
Yeah, President Donald Trump announces a big, beautiful bill as Americans celebrate Independence Day. And the president has revealed something about his wife, Melania, that we didn't know before. Stay tuned to find out exactly what it is. But after the break, a primary school teacher killed almost 3 decades ago whilst trying to protect her class in the Dunblane shooting. I remember covering this. Well, she has been recognised with a new honour. Well, all of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far for Sea Racing.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company. Now, OK, lots of you have been getting in touch, and I do apologise because the system, as many of you are a bit of, it's struggling today. I think so many of you are getting in touch, which is a really good thing. Lots of you getting in touch about the reform story. Marilyn says, tell Jim Pickard, who was the guest we just had talking about the story, that reform is much more than Nigel Farage. There are thousands of us believe in the reform way, the one we desperately want. Without the belief, this country is completely lost to liars, cheats and other groups who know who they are. Reform voters believe in Britain. Lots of you are coming up with that sort of feeling as well. And on the Macron subject, Macron coming over here and suggesting that Palestine be recognised as a state, despite the fact that Palestine is indeed run by Hamas and they are a terrorist organisation. Richard says, yes, I hope the reception Macron gets from the British public is negative when he finally shows up. And, oh, this one's a bit controversial. Lucia says, on the Boris Johnson, should Boris Johnson come back? What did Boris Johnson do? He simply ignored Nigel Farage without so much as a thank you over the Brexit situation here. Get lost bungling Boris. That's got a lot of you going on that one. What do you think? Should Boris Johnson come back? Would that help the Conservative Party? So please do let me know on that one. gbnews.com/your say. And I will try and read as many out as possible. OK, now we're moving on to our next story. Rod Moore is one of the 8 Scots being honoured with the Elizabeth emblem, which was introduced last year for public servants who lost their lives in the line of duty. He was a retired paramedic who went back to frontline work during the pandemic and died of COVID. Joining us now, live from Dunblane, is Scotland reporter Tony Maguire. Tony, how are you? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm good, Dawn. Good afternoon. Well, you know, this is quite an emotional story. You know, the Elizabeth emblem is a relatively new award given to public service workers who lose their lives while on the job. And Rod Moore there was a paramedic who was quite happily retired and went back to frontline NHS care during the pandemic. Another name on that list, however, is Gwen Mayer, and she was the teacher in the classroom during the Dunblane primary school massacre. Now, Gwen, a beloved member of this local community, along with 16 children, lost their lives that day where a gunman opened fire inside the school gymnasium. Gwen's family have long maintained that she should have a little more recognition than she received at the time, and almost 3 decades later she's had that. Now, I've had the privilege of speaking to Gwen's spouse just yesterday, and here's a little part of that conversation that we had.
We always felt at the time that she didn't get the recognition that she deserved as such, because, as I say, I have said, she was shot 6 times, so she must have been a real threat to Hampton. And if you'd have known her, she would have gone at him like a bullet again, you know. And I'm sure, say, we'll never know exactly what happened in the gym. She would go to the school at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know. The children didn't come till 9. It's very seldom she left before 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything had to be just perfect for the children. She had a flair for fancy clothes and things like that. You know, people always used to say she was well turned out, and if you expected anybody to be in anything that was kind of unusual, she would be wearing it, kind of thing. But we were just normal people, you know, until...
What a special woman she sounded, right? Now, Gwen is one of about 100 public service workers who this year will be awarded the Elizabeth emblem. Now, this is, as I said, a relatively new award. It's only come round in the last couple of years. This is the second list of recipients, and later in the year there's going to be a number of ceremonies where loved ones and families will receive it on their behalf. And, you know, right across the UK, this is something that I think is touched quite a lot of people. Some of these recipients are going to be receiving it after more than half a century. You know, there was a huge whiskey bonfire back in the 60s in Glasgow, and one of the firefighters who was caught in a huge explosion of the whiskey barrels, along with 18 of their comrades in the fire service, are also going to be awarded this year. And about a third of them, the total, are actually from Northern Ireland. They're servicemen and women from the police and the fire services who are going to be awarded for their part in trying to maintain peace and order during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. So, you know, you can imagine, having spoken to a number of the families, it's a real double-edged sword. Yes, they're incredibly proud of the achievement and of the recognition, really, of their loved ones that are no longer with us. But of course, for some of them, it drags up quite a lot of memories that, you know, have taken a lot of hard work to put behind them, especially, of course, in the case of Rod Moore, and that really just tragic, unimaginable event that happened here in Dunblane nearly 30 years ago.
Thank you very much, Tony. That is Scotland reporter Tony Maguire live in Dunblane for us there. I mean, very few of us can ever forget that Dunblane. I remember, I can't believe it's 30 years ago, travelling up to Dunblane to cover that story, and it was incredibly moving. And Gwen's husband was incredibly strong and brave there, as were indeed the families of those 16 children who lost their lives. So thoughts for everyone, but as Tony has just said, it does bring it all back to you, and it's like, you know, it's great that Gwen has been recognised, but 30 years on, it was a very long time, wasn't it? So thank you, Tony, for that incredibly emotional report. OK, now let's bring you some more breaking news. Police have made a number of arrests at a protest in support of Palestine Action. The demonstration was in Parliament Square in central London. Palestine Action is now a proscribed terrorist group as of this week, and expressing support for them is indeed a criminal offence. We'll bring you more on this developing story as we have it. Now, remember, let me know your thoughts on all the stories we are discussing today. Very simple to get involved at gbnews.com/your say and join in the conversation. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Yeah, Blur fans need not get in touch. It's finally happened after months of anticipation. Oasis performed for the first time in 16 years last night in Cardiff in front of thousands of delighted fans. But after the break...
What we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
President Trump has got a big, beautiful wife and a big, beautiful bill. But what has he said about his wife, revealing a family secret? All of that and much more coming up. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Hello there. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Quite dull and damp for many of us during this first half of the weekend, all courtesy of an area of low pressure that is generally in control across the UK. It's steadily moving eastwards, but we've got this trailing weather front providing a lot of clouds, some outbreaks of rain across southern districts. Some of those might be heavy for Cornwall, particularly the Channel Islands, into this afternoon. We do also have a rain warning still in force across western Scotland today. We've seen quite a lot of rain build up over recent days or so, and those will continue throughout today as well. Quite a brisk breeze around for the vast majority of us. You certainly will notice that if you're out by the coast or on any of the mountains and hills. Those to the east of the UK, though, do have the greater chance of seeing a little bit more in the way of brightness and some sunshine. That may allow temperatures to climb towards 21 degrees Celsius for Aberdeen there. Again, parts of northeastern England may see the cloud break at times across the East Midlands down towards East Anglia as well. And here it could feel quite humid, and amongst all that cloud, top temperatures of 25, maybe locally 26 degrees Celsius. We hold on to this fairly damp, cloudy picture as we head into the overnight period as well. Again, always those eastern areas likely to see a few more in the way of clear spells, but the showers may intensify a touch across North Wales into northern England come dawn tomorrow morning. With the cloud and the breeze, it's going to be a mild night for all of us, temperatures holding around 13 to 16 degrees Celsius. Do watch out for some heavy downpours across England and Wales first thing tomorrow. They could be thundery in places, though some very sharp downpours possible as we head throughout the morning there. Some further showers continuing to push in on that northwesterly breeze, but with those winds shifting in direction, it should hopefully feel a touch fresher tomorrow. Those temperatures will be down, highs only around 24 degrees Celsius in the south and the east. Whilst further cloud and rain is possible across northwestern areas into next week, generally it will be settling down towards the south and those temperatures will be climbing as well. Bye-bye.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Our final few minutes together. But it's a packed few minutes, don't worry about that. Speaking to supporters in Iowa, Donald Trump revealed his pet name for his wife Melania, and it is First Lady. I know, me neither. I mean, not Squidge or sort of like, you know, Puffle Chump or whatever. I mean, First Lady. To tell us more about the psychology behind pet names in general, and this one in particular, is psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Lucy, I mean, you know, we have pet names for our other halves, but my First Lady is not exactly...
Can I just say that I would definitely want to be called First Lady if it had got to that point. I would want that recognised, just saying.
Right, yeah. No, I can understand that it's not the most offensive thing you can
But it is a very unusual thing to do.
Yes.
But actually, the most unusual bit about it is that he's gone public with it. So the whole point about pet names is that they are a sign of a very close bond, something very personal, very intimate. Perhaps it's the only other person who knows that you call them this name is the person concerned. And it's usually quite fun, can often be quite childlike.
Yeah, like Squishy or Squidgy or something like that.
Yeah, they can either be quite babyish names, or they can be but they're very affectionate. They're terms of endearment. And they are basically saying, I have this relationship with you that requires an extra special vocabulary, and I'm going to keep that private. And then suddenly, Donald Trump starts talking about it to the global media and betrays, I don't know which word I feel more appropriate, that actually, yes, what he calls Melania is First Lady, which of course is very much a projection of him. You can only be First Lady because I'm president. So it's very much about him.
So yeah, well, why do you think he's suddenly revealing that? And watching their performance on the balcony for the 4th of July celebrations yesterday, he was quite touchy-feely with her as well, literally snogging her at one point.
Yes, and we don't really need to see that necessarily with our leaders, but they may have just had a row and they wanted to make up, and he needs to... And, you know, all of the psychology around why he says what he says, he definitely never really knows. I should imagine he never intended that he was actually going to give that information until it actually came out of his mouth. But the really sweet thing is that most of us have these pet names, and they're very private, they're very personal, and by and large, they're very personal to that one individual. You very rarely get a situation where you've had a series of relationships and you just recycle the same name with the same... That would be very lazy and very offensive, and suddenly you mention it at a party and 5 heads all turn at the same time.
That would be embarrassing.
At the same time, there is something very amusing about the fact that he calls her First Lady. I also heard that there was a time when Camilla, by her family, was known as Lorraine, which was a pun on the French La Reine, which means the Queen.
Oh.
So when she was Queen Consort, apparently her family would tease her about that and called her Lorraine.
Well, that's quite posh, isn't it?
To call it in French?
In French, absolutely.
French.
Yeah, unlike David and Victoria Beckham and the infamous Golden Balls.
Yes, I don't...
Term of endearment.
Again, you can't really unhear that. But again, I think the key thing is about how we create this language when we're in an intimate relationship with somebody that's very special, and it just shows you how language is such an important part of connection, that when you have a relationship, you create this special terminology. You have perhaps in-jokes, you have little anecdotes that you tell each other, and you use the same phrases all the time, which is why in the end, when you've been married to someone for 40 or 50 or 60 years and they trot out certain stories with the same language and you're literally mouthing the words because you know those stories off by heart, there's actually something quite affectionate about that because you know each other's language there.
Yeah.
And so it is important.
You are spying on my relationship, it has to be said. Just quickly, because it's this story that everyone's talking about and it's still in the papers today. Rachel Reeves, distraught in PMQs the other day.
Yes, it's a story that a lot of people are still talking about. I found it very disturbing to watch. I couldn't understand why she had been encouraged to be on that front bench, although in terms of market volatility, if she hadn't been there after the vote the night before, that might have also caused the markets to wobble a little bit. So on some level, maybe she and Keir Starmer thought she had to be there. But she had obviously been distressed before she got to the front benches. But what seemed to really set her off was Kemi Badenoch saying, "You look miserable, and that's because you're the human shield for the person you work with." And I think that perhaps speaks so much to the relationship that they have at the moment that it really touched a nerve, and that's when the tears started to fall more copiously.
Yeah, indeed. Lucy, voice of reason, as always. Thank you very much for coming on. That is psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. OK, now, if you are in search of some holiday sun, and who doesn't want to escape at the moment, here is a forecast for some of those top European destinations. Thank you.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across southern and eastern parts of Europe, the heat wave continues, this at times triggering some thunderstorms. But across much of southern Europe, it should remain mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. But as we head our way towards northwest Spain, southern parts of France and across Switzerland, it's likely that we'll see some intense thunderstorms, some hail and also some frequent lightning. But moving away eastwards across the Mediterranean, the settled conditions will continue. So plenty of sunshine into next week, but still those intense temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
England. Right, England women will begin the defence of their European Championship this evening when they take on France. Wales are also in action today. They face the Netherlands. Our reporter Jack Carson has been doing some deep investigative sports reporting for us. Here's his details.
Putting the final touches to their preparation for Euro 2025. Today, the Lionesses begin their journey to try and retain the title. Before heading out to Switzerland, they've had support from His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. But now it all comes down to what happens on the pitch. Or does it? Because at All Things Wild in Evesham, Worcestershire, Rousseau the psychic goat has been busy predicting England's group games. The Lionesses will have to face France, the Netherlands and Wales as they look to qualify for the knockouts. But thanks to this 8-year-old pygmy goat's magic powers, we've got the inside scoop on exactly what's going to happen. With equal amounts of food in each bowl and a packed out crowd watching on, let's see what Rousseau predicted. Rousseau with a confident stride here, heading towards the bowls, the beard in full swing. She's looking left, she's looking right, and it's the French who'll take the victory. Rousseau in no doubt there. Next up for the Lionesses, it'll be England versus the Dutch. Which way will this psychic goat lean? It's a confident run straight down the path, a little tease from her there, but straight into the England bowl, and Serena Weigmann will be delighted if England can get 3 points there. And finally, the derby. England versus Wales. The nation watches this magical goat in anticipation. It's another confident run, and she's heading for the England bowl. Will it be victory? Oh no! Rousseau gives it to Wales. We'll have to get VAR to take a look at that. Did she eat any of the food? It doesn't look like it. And this goat says Wales will be the winner. Afterwards, animal manager at All Things Wild, Matt Parker, gave us his thoughts on that performance.
Well, we knew Rousseau was going to come good for us. Straight to the bowl. She didn't second guess herself. She had a good time with it.
What do you think about the chances of her predictions coming true?
I don't know. We're going to find out, aren't we?
But will Rousseau reveal the secret to her predictive powers?
Rousseau, what's your secret? How do you do it?
This goat isn't giving anything away, and as the nation watches on, the Lionesses look to make history. Jack Carson, GB News.
Yeah, and that is an 8-year-old pygmy goat for those asking, and some of you are suggesting what recipe it would go well with. That's a bit mean and a bit horrid. But in any case, good luck, girls, tonight. Let's hope you do it. OK, and now I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Oh, we're having a brilliant time down there. It's finally happened. After months of anticipation, Oasis performed for the first time in 16 years last night in Cardiff in front of thousands of delighted fans. But after the break, all of that and much more with GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you soon.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Yeah, so I got the news on 4th of April, right in between GB Team Selection Series, which hurt even more because I was leading in the points. But all of a sudden, I get a phone call being told you're banned from attending any Pal UK premises, banned from speaking with your teammates or staff, which was the most brutal part of it, and suspended, or whatever word you want to use.
I think, though, Kurt, that, posting subscription-only saucy content online might get you in a little bit of trouble, or did it not cross your mind?
No, for sure. But I want to make it clear that I have tried things in the past. I've been living life on the edge so many years. We moved from Latvia in 2010, been living life on the edge since then, done everything from working freelance long into long nights, working at the Amazon warehouse. I have seeked out other alternatives, but in December last year, I got to a point of realization where I thought, is it worth it, or can I find an alternative? And I knew of other GB athletes doing it. I didn't think it was going to cause outrage like this.
Yeah, because I was thinking, a nice chap like you, who's obviously very talented with your sport, you could make some money doing, like online fitness training or personal training and things like that don't involve, getting your kit off.
No, for sure. I've been making content for like 6-7 years now. Over 1,000 of the pieces of content have been inspirational, motivational. I've visited over 30 schools in the UK, going to the hardest parts of the UK, inspiring kids from underprivileged backgrounds to get into sport. I've tried that, but I don't know. I found that in this day and age, unless you are smart or find some little controversial thing you can hold on to, it's going to be hard to get attention and sponsorship.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company, and thank you so much for your comments. Ron, we were just talking about our pet names that we have for one another. Let me know what you call your other half, keep it clean there. Ron has just said, if I called my wife First Lady, that's what Donald Trump calls his, she would want to know who the second is, lol. And yeah, actually, yeah. Oh, okay, I can't read that one out. That's a bit rude. Any case, let me know what you call your other half as a pet name. I would tell you what I call my husband, but I'd get in trouble with Ofcom. Any case, Oasis are back. You might have noticed it. No one said all those jokes. And last night, the supersonic duo began their tour in Cardiff. They sung slightly better than that, though, obviously. This is the first time the brothers have performed together in 16 years, so it's been a long wait for fans. GB News reporter Jack Carson spoke to some of them last night. Let's have a listen.
Well, we're here outside the Principality. 70,000 people now coming out after watching Oasis. Johnny, you were in there. I mean, what was that moment like?
Well, you know what? I've waited 16 years for that. I've slept on streets in Edinburgh to watch Noel. I've knocked at Liam's house to beg him to start it up again. That's the best gig that I've been to since, well, you know what? Since I was little. Since I was very, very little. It was magical, spiritual, Oasis healed a lot of things in my life, whether it was relationships, addictions, funerals, etc., life events. That was up there, man. That gave me shivers right through. That made me remember everything good in life.
That was a cracking interview, that lad. That just goes to show exactly what music means to people. OK, let's talk to music journalist Sean Hannam about this phenomenon of Oasis. I mean, Sean, thank you for joining me. I mean, blimey, this is a great reaction, isn't it, to the lads being back together?
It is fascinating. It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I only wish I was there. Sadly, I couldn't get a ticket. But I've been watching it on Instagram. I've been watching it on social media feeds this morning and stuff like that, and last night. It's just fantastic, isn't it, to see how music has kind of brought everyone together. I was sort of saying to my wife earlier, you know, we're going through a pretty dark time, bleak time in the world. You know, these songs are just kind of anthems for a lot of people, aren't they? They just kind of bring us together and, you know, all singing together and getting covered in beer and, you know, cheering. And for a lot of people who never saw Oasis, you know, the first time around, I was lucky. I saw them, you know, 31 years ago in Cardiff, actually. I paid £4 for a ticket in 1994. You wouldn't even get a pint for that now there at the Cardiff Stadium, would you? But
no, exactly.
Biblical, as Liam Gallagher says. You know, it's a kind of a real event. It's a kind of zeitgeist feeling, isn't it, at the moment for everyone? And it's only the first night of the tour as well. That's the crazy thing, you know.
And it is a European tour as well. I mean, they are obviously playing London, Manchester, going over to Ireland, and obviously they're going across Europe and pretty much around the world. I think they're doing some American tours, shows as well.
Yeah, they are. They're going to make a rinse this one, aren't they? They're going to make a lot of money out of it. I think the interesting thing for me as well is the set from last night. How they really only chose stuff from mostly from the first two albums, plus some B-sides. You know, the master plan. Hello and Acquiesce, the perfect kind of, you know, double whammy to open with. You know, hello, it's good to be back, and we need each other. It's great. It's really emotional watching it. And there's, you know, I think, will they change the setup for the rest of the tour? That'd be interesting. Will they bring in some other songs from some of the later albums? But most of the fans probably just want, you know.
Yeah, OK. Now, just quickly, we are running out of time, unfortunately. They were described as the greatest rock band of the modern age by The Telegraph, I believe it is. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, for certain people, yeah, I think they are. Yeah, I mean, because they spanned the generation, didn't they, as well? You know, my dad was into Oasis, and so was I, and so was my sister. Whereas a lot of bands now, you know, just the the kids, as they say, you know, are into it. I think they're one of those last bands that kind of transcended and crossed, you know, from generations. So, you know, from dad rock to the early days of, you know, the '90s indie Britpop scene. So yeah, I mean, they're a special band, aren't they? They're one of the greatest British bands of all time, up there, you know, with Beatles, the Stones, the Who, you know.
And do you think they will last the tour? I mean, they do have a fractious relationship, I think you could say.
I think so. I imagine there's clause built into the contract that if Noel Gallagher so much raises his monobrow at Liam Gallagher and, you know, they'll fall out, then they'll. You know, and Noel's got his divorce to pay for, hasn't he? So, you know, there's a lot of money at stake there, and all those ticket prices, you know, that Liam joked about, you know, saying you pay £4,000 for that ticket. Did you enjoy it? There's too much at stake for them to mess it up. And the first night of the tour was so good, you know, they're going to do it. I think. I think they're going to be good.
Sean, thank you very much for joining us. Hope you get to see them in the end. Sean Hannam there. OK, thank you very much for your company. Don't go anywhere. Nana is up next, and I'm back with tomorrow lunchtime. So I'll see you then. Don't go nowhere, though. Nana's got a cracking show for you. Here she is.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. That summer feeling is lacking somewhat this weekend with quite a brisk breeze, rain and showers around for many of us. It's all because low pressure is in charge at the moment. You'll notice a lot of isobars on the chart here indicating where that breeze is coming in from the west, and a few frontal systems here continuing to bring outbreaks of rain as we head into this evening. To start off with, those are mostly on the light side, but we could see them intensifying, particularly across northern Wales into northern England as we head towards the second half of the night. With the cloud, the rain and the breeze, it is going to be a mild night, quite muggy in places as well. Temperatures only dropping back to 13 or 17 degrees Celsius. That does lead us into a pretty damp and dreary start to Sunday then. A lot of cloud right across the board for Scotland, again with those further outbreaks of rain. Generally on the lighter side here, quite drizzly in nature. A lot of extensive cloud cover for Northern Ireland as well. It could be quite misty and murky around some coastal districts and hill fog over the mountains as well. For England and Wales, though, worth watching out for those heavier downpours first thing on Sunday. They will tend to push their way southeastwards as we head throughout the day, and there is the potential that they could be thundery in nature with some hail in the mixture as well. So they could come on quite short notice. Some further showers drifting in for Northern Ireland and Scotland into the afternoon as well. Coming in on that brisk northwesterly wind, that will be starting to introduce some slightly fresher conditions. That does, though, mean that temperatures will be a notch down tomorrow, highs around 24 degrees Celsius. Those showers just continuing to drift their way off as we head into Sunday evening, and things generally starting to dry off a bit, and that is because high pressure is trying to build its way in for next week. So the showers will generally become fewer and further between, more in the way of sunshine breaking through as well, and those temperatures are set to climb. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise